Chapter 939. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. Princess Xinyong's face darkened. Why are we here? Yu Jin's eyes flashed and she smiled awkwardly. The carriage broke down. The coachman said, Aya, the wheels are loose. I have to fix it. Xiao Yi, who was nestled in the bride's arms, cried out, Wow! Princess Xinyong. She raised her chin like a proud peacock. Don't do these useless things. I won't go in and catch them in the act. She was a princess of a country. How could she lower herself and step into such a brothel? Besides, she and Xiao Ji weren't real husband and wife. They had agreed that she wouldn't interfere with him no matter what he did. She lifted the curtain and said to the coachman, Is it fixed? If not, you don't have to come to the princess residence tomorrow. The coachman trembled in fear and glanced at Yu Jin awkwardly. He could only help here. If this went on, his bowl would be gone. Xiao Yi pursed her lips. Princess Xinyong looked at her fiercely. You too. Don't cry. Her mother was murderous. Xiao Yi shut her mouth, feeling wronged. Princess Xinyong put down the curtain and was about to leave when she caught a glimpse of a sneaky figure from the corner of her eye. She saw it first, so she put down the curtain. But people didn't react so quickly. When she lifted the curtain again, the figure was gone. She felt strange and felt that things weren't simple. Hold Yi and wait for me in the carriage. She handed Xiao Yi to Eugene. Eugene didn't know what she had seen and thought that she had seen the marquis and was going to catch them in the act. Princess, don't worry. I won't disturb you. Princess Xinyong didn't explain to her and got out of the carriage. That person first entered the alley and used a long knife to open General Qian's carriage. There was no one in the carriage, so he turned and entered Soft Fragrance Pavilion from the back door. At this point, Princess Xinyong was certain that the other party had come for Xiao Ji or General Qian. It was very likely that it was Xiao Ji. After all, this person was used to attracting hatred. It could be said that within 10 steps, there would always be an enemy. She chased after him. Soft Fragrance Pavilion didn't look big from the front, but in fact, there were a few small gardens in the backyard. When she went around the corridor to the second small garden, she saw a figure in front of the rockery. She recognized that it was Xiao Ji. Someone wants to kill. Before he could finish, Xiao Ji raised his knife and stabbed it into the assassin's heart. The assassin didn't even have time to scream before he fell into a pool of blood with his eyes wide open. Princess Xinyong froze in place. She only opened her mouth when Xiao Ji stabbed her. It was too late for her to withdraw her hand. She didn't want to be so bloody in front of her. He kicked the assassin's body into a crack in the fake mountain and threw the murder weapon inside. He wiped his hands with a handkerchief before turning to look at Princess Xinyong. He smiled nonchalantly. Qin Fengwan, you followed me all the way just to say this? Followed me all the way. This guy already knew I was following him? Princess Xinyong's heart shook, but she didn't show it on her face. She said calmly, I didn't follow you. I was just passing by. You, on the other hand, knew that he was coming to find you, yet you still got into the carriage with someone else. Xiao Ji tilted his head to look at her, his good-looking lips curling up slightly. Qin Fengwan, are you jealous? Princess Xinyong glared at him fiercely but didn't want to argue with him. She turned to leave. At this moment, General Qian came over from another small garden and walked in their direction. She couldn't let anyone find out that she was here. Not only would it lower her status, but the rumor that she caught Xiao Ji in the middle of the night visiting a brothel would spread throughout the capital the next day. She, Qin Fengwan, couldn't afford to lose face like this. She gritted her teeth and quickly walked toward the rockery, planning to hide behind it. But when she got there, she saw how terrifying the bloodstains on the ground were. She couldn't step over them. Marquis. General Qian smiled and greeted Xiao Ji. Qin Fengwan trembled all over. Xiao Ji glanced at her, pulled her over, and moved 2 steps to the side, pressing her against the other half of the rockery that wasn't splashed with blood. The grass under her feet was also clean. He used his broad body to block her, his arms on both sides of her. The two were so close that they were almost face to face. Their breaths intertwined. Princess Xingyang, who wasn't used to being so close to a man, felt her heart tighten. Her breathing instinctively quickened and became difficult, and her body started to tremble slightly. Xiao Ji took in her symptoms and frowned. He moved back slightly to create some space between them. Marquis, why are you here? General Qian asked. Don't come over, Xiao Ji ordered. He didn't look back and just stared at Qin Fengwan without blinking. I have something to do. Go back to your room first. General Qian paused in his steps. He didn't understand why Marquis Xianping was like this. He craned his neck to take a look. Marquis Xianping was tall and muscular. He could block people, but he couldn't block Princess Xingyang's dress that was blown up by the night wind. General Qian smiled meaningfully. So Marquis is here to meet a beauty in private. Is it Miss Chen Xiang? No wonder Marquis agreed so readily tonight. You must be missing the beauty. Princess Xingyang looked coldly at Xiao Ji. Xiao Ji's teeth hurt. He wished he could turn around and give Qian a kick. General Qian didn't seem to know that his head was already tied to his belt and continued to court death. Since Miss Chen Xiang is also here, why don't Marquis bring her up to sit? It's not Chen Xiang. Xiao Ji gritted his teeth. Oh. Then who is it? General Qian was curious. Xiao Ji looked at Qin Fengwan's cold gaze and narrowed his eyes. He suddenly laughed hoarsely. The new beauty is very shy, so she won't meet you all. His flirtatious tone made Qin Fengwan want to raise her knee and kick him. That place. Make him unable to do it again. General Qian chuckled. Is there a shy girl in Soft Fragrance Pavilion? It's just a method to seduce men. Marquis just came down, and she created a chance encounter with Marquis. In my opinion, her methods are impressive. Listen, does this sound like something a human would say? It's not unreasonable that he hasn't been promoted for 10,000 years. Princess Xingyang wanted to sentence General Qian to death. Seeing her bristling with anger, Xiao Ji couldn't help but smile. Her methods are indeed impressive. Princess Xingyang glared at Xiao Ji. Xiao Ji smiled unrestrainedly at her, but the words he said to General Qian didn't have the slightest bit of warmth. Go up, Marquis. Military order. General Qian's expression turned solemn. Yes. After he left, Xiao Ji released her from his arms and walked to the side. He looked at her indifferently and said, Don't come to this kind of place in the future, and don't follow assassins. Princess Xingyang said expressionlessly, Just take care of yourself. Xiao Ji said, I was followed yesterday. Today, I purposely went to the military camp to lure them out. They were very cautious and didn't make a move. Princess Xingyang looked at him. Did I ruin your plan? Xiao Ji sighed. Yes, he discovered you. If I didn't kill him, you would have been in danger. If I killed him, I would have alerted the enemy, and his accomplices would have all run away. Princess Xingyang lowered her eyes. Xiao Ji looked at her and said with a faint smile, Qin Fengwan, you're suddenly so concerned about me. Don't tell me you've really fallen for me? The guilt in Princess Xingyang's heart disappeared in a second. The king of atmosphere ruining, Xiao Ji. Princess Xingyang returned to the carriage. Xiao Ji also followed. Princess Xingyang didn't let him get on the carriage. What are you doing here? Aren't you going to continue visiting your brothel? Your Miss Chen Xiang is waiting for you. Inside the carriage, Xiao Yi started crying. Daddy's here. Act coquettishly. Let's go. Xiao Ji raised his brows and gestured in the direction of her hand. Princess Xingyang glared at the crying little fella in Eugen's arms with a dark expression. He really is your father's biological son. After returning to the residence, the first thing Xiao Yi did was to use her eyes to find a washboard for her father. Xiao Ji. 3 days later, Shenyuan Qi and Liaochen set off, accompanied by young Master Mingyue and his servant. They brought a troop of the Dark Shadow Division and entered the Yen Kingdom through the waterway. Then, they went all the way to the northwest and advanced towards the ice field. On the 3rd day of the 7th lunar month, the capital of the Zhao Kingdom held a junior advisor exam. It was jointly hosted by the Imperial Cabinet and the Ministry of Rites. The main content of the exam was 8-part essay and political theory. In order to not restrict talents to one category, Grand Secretary Yuan relaxed the requirements for the exam and raised the age limit to 25 years old. The original limit was 20 years old. Those who met this age requirement could participate in the exam. Feng Lin and Lin Chengye were of the same age, but unfortunately, one of them was ranked 123rd and the other was ranked 99th. They were both grand scholars. Du Ruhan, on the other hand, was ranked 13th and was ranked grand scholar on both lists. He was 1 day away from reaching 25 years old. Empress Dowager Zhuang held a letter in her hand. It was sent to the border. Zhuang Yuhang was the previous year's 2nd place. He was only 1 year older than Xiao Heng. But in the end, this letter was not sent out. He can't beat A Heng. This widow just wants to use this chance to have him return to the capital for this widow to take a look. This widow is already so old. I don't know how many years I have left to live. I want to see him. But that child might not want to return to the capital. The junior advisor exam had been registered the previous year. During this year, the other examinees had been busy preparing for the exam. Xiao Hang, however, had gone to the distant Yen Kingdom and was completely unaware of this matter. After returning to the country, he had been busy with the Ministry of Justice and the wedding. He had very little time to prepare for the exam. Even Princess Xinyang felt that her son had neglected his studies for too long and that his chances of passing were not high. When the results came out, everyone was dumbfounded. In the 3 exams, Xiao Hang had obtained 1st place with an overwhelming advantage. Looking at the exam papers sent by the Ministry of Rites, Princess Xinyang did not dare to believe her eyes. "You're like a boy who has just eaten meat all day long. You're always together with your wife, but I don't see you studying." Little Jing Kong also ran over to look at his bad brother-in-law's exam paper. After reading it, he nodded seriously and turned to go to Xiao Heng's study. "I heard that you're going to be a junior advisor." He got straight to the point. "Is a junior advisor very good? Is it a very high-ranking official?" Xiao Heng showed off. "Of course it's very good. It's standard 3rd rank. It's the same rank as son-in-law." Finally, the joke of being the last place could be passed. Little Jing Kong waved his small hand and sternly said, "Since you're going to be a high-ranking official, the rent for by Shui Alley should be increased. The family price is 100 taels per month. Yearly payment." Xiao Heng, on the 18th of July, they had been married for a month. They could no longer live in the bridal chamber. The people of Chongping Marquis residence set off for their fief. Gu Jinyu did not bid farewell to anyone, including old Madame Gu, who had facilitated this marriage. The procession went out of the East City Gate. Gu Jinyu and Chun Lu sat silently in the carriage. The curtain was lifted by the breeze and light came in. Gu Jinyu's expression was cold. She still wore a veil in the carriage, but it could not hide the bruise on her brow bone. On the 2nd day after Gu Jinyu left the capital, Xiao Hang and Gu Jiao discussed where to live in the future. They could move into the princess residence that her great-aunt gave to Gu Jiao at any time, but Lady Yao and her great-aunt were used to buy Shui Alley. They decided to live in Princess Xinyang's residence and buy Shui Alley. Sometimes, a small decision could affect the whole family. Because the children were here, Princess Xinyang did not mention moving back to Zhu Ke Avenue. Shangguan Qing was also preparing to leave. He had stayed in Zhao country long enough and needed to go back to accompany Shangguan Yen. But because the 2 new guns that Xiao Hang promised to give him were not ready yet, he had to wait for a few more days. In late July, a bolt of lightning flashed over the capital. The power was like 10 tons of gunpowder exploding. The windows of the princess residence trembled. Xiao Yi, who was taking an afternoon nap, was woken up by the thunder. She was so scared that she cried loudly. Eugene and Princess Xinyang were in the flower room. The wet nurse was guarding the room. The wet nurse hurriedly picked up the little master. Xiao Yi screamed at the top of her lungs. Her loud and clear cries seemed to want to shake down the thunder. The wet nurse did not know whether she was noisier or the thunder. Who would have thought that as she cried and cried, she suddenly stopped crying. She opened her big teary eyes and looked unblinkingly at the door. She did not know when, but a handsome and cold youth in black clothes appeared there. The terrifying lightning circled above his head like a dragon, but it seemed to be blocked by him. Xiao Yi's little face was covered in tears as she stared at him blankly. The youth in black clothes walked in. He thought for a moment and took out the candied haws in his hand. He handed it to her and said, "Do you want to eat?" Xiao Yi. Digression. Xiao Yi. Immortal sister, can you give me a monthly vote? Double it. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/1047152773. HTML Genius remembers this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 940. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. There are novels with connotations that can't be found online here. This was the first time Xiao Yi met someone who wanted to give her hard candied haws. She didn't even have teeth. When Princess Xinyang and Eugene returned to their room from the greenhouse, Xiao Yi was being held in the arms of the young man in black. Her small hands were holding a string of shiny candied haws, and she was licking them. The wet nurse stood at the side, trembling with fear, not daring to even breathe loudly. She didn't know this person, but she couldn't snatch it away from him. Eugene looked at the young man who suddenly appeared and was shocked. Chong Jing. Marquis. In Marquis Shuamping's practice room, Xiao Ji was helping Shangguan Qing get into the horse stance when Steward Lu rushed over. What's the matter? Xiao Ji glanced at him. Steward Lu raised his hand to wipe the sweat on his forehead and said with a smile while panting, Chong Jing is back. He's with the princess. He said, come back, not come. In everyone's heart, Chong Jing had long been regarded as a member of the Marquis' household. Shangguan Qing looked at his father. Chong Jing, the black-clothed young master? Xiao Ji's expression was very calm, but his following words revealed his urgency. He said to his son, get into the horse stance first. There's still an hour left today. Don't be lazy. I'll go over. Lu Huan, watch him. Steward Lu hurriedly said, yes, Marquis. Xiao Ji turned around and left. Shangguan Qing changed his posture in a second and stood up calmly. Steward Lu sighed helplessly. Wasn't it a waste to let him watch the young master? How could he win against this little sesame rice ball? Xiao Ji went to the princess's residence. As soon as he stepped into the courtyard, he realized that something was wrong. Chong Jing was back and should have come to the Marquis' residence first. Why did he go to the princess's residence instead? Could it be that this fellow is still thinking about Qin Fengwan? Chong Jing had been attracted to the princess residence by Xiao Yi's cries, but Chong Jing's longing for Princess Xinyang was not fake. Princess Xinyang didn't like Xiao Ji, but she didn't dislike Chong Jing. Once, Chong Jing passed by a house on Vermilion Bird Avenue injured and was seen by Princess Xinyang. She called him into the house and personally bandaged his wound. Since then, he would often pass by that place when he was injured. After his wounds were bandaged, He would occasionally freeload a meal before returning to the Marquis's estate. Xiao Ji knew nothing about this. Chong Jing did not have a mother, only 7 older sisters. He felt the power of a mother from Princess Xinyang, and he liked Princess Xinyang very much. When Xiao Ji entered the house, Xiao Yi had already been snatched away by her mother. She had washed her hands and was lying obediently in the cradle. Chong Jing sat at the table and ate Yongchun noodles. He was hungry, so he ate very fast. That was not the main point. The main point was that there were several exquisite dishes in front of him, all of which were his favorite. There were 2 possibilities. 1, he asked for it himself. 2, the princess residence prepared it for him. If it was the first possibility, he didn't treat himself as an outsider. If it was the second possibility, he really wasn't an outsider. The princess residence even knew what he liked. Xiao Ji suddenly felt that his status in the family had been affected. You guys chat. I still have something to do. Princess Xinyang saw him come over, so she took Yujin to the greenhouse to continue taking care of the newly bought peonies. The thunder had stopped, and the sky was dark. It looked like it would rain in the next second. Xiao Ji first looked at his youngest daughter. She was playing happily by herself. He sat down opposite Chong Jing. They hadn't seen each other for more than half a year, and Chong Jing had grown taller again. He had a heroic spirit between his eyebrows, but he was still a young man. Did you run away from home again? Xiao Ji asked indifferently. Chong Jing finished his noodles before replying, No. This time, I didn't. Not this time. Xiao Ji observed him. He hadn't noticed before, but today, he noticed that his eating manners weren't bad. It was obvious that he had been restrained by Qin Fengwan. Chong Jing finished his bowl of noodles and drank the broth clean. He placed his bowl and chopsticks properly. Xiao Ji's mood became even more subtle. I came to find you. Chong Jing went back to the topic. I thought you were dead, so I brought people to collect your body. Xiao Ji choked. Thank you. Chong Jing continued. After we arrived at the border of the Yen Kingdom, we heard that you returned alive. Xiao Ji said indifferently, Then your father agreed to let you come all the way here to find me? Chong Jing said, No, he didn't agree. I couldn't leave the icy plains. Xiao Ji looked at him in amusement. Then why did you say you didn't run away from home? What's going on? Chong Jing said seriously, I told my father that you're my future father-in-law. You betrothed your daughter to me. He agreed to let me bring people to propose marriage. How can I have a daughter for you? Xiao Ji ate half of his noodles in disdain. His gaze turned and looked at Xiao Yi, who was playing with her feet in the cradle. He stood up and picked up the stool he had just sat on. How dare you have designs on my daughter? Chong Jing rushed to the door and explained, I didn't know you really had a daughter. I just said it casually. Chong Jing left the Zhao kingdom with Xiao Ji. The 2 of them didn't know that Princess Xinyang was pregnant. The ancient times weren't the information age, so the news of Princess Xinyang giving birth to a daughter couldn't spread to Dark Knight Island. Chong Jing was purely looking for a strong excuse to fool his father and 7 sisters. Xiao Ji didn't care. He was angry, very angry. He grabbed the stool and chased Chong Jing out of the mansion. Half an hour later, the 2 of them stood in the garden, out of breath. They were about a dozen steps away from each other. Xiao Ji had an injury on his waist and couldn't chase him. Chong Jing's face was already bruised. Xiao Ji glared at him, panting. He threw the stool away and turned to go back to the study. Chong Jing pursed her lips in grievance and limped after him. Xiao Ji didn't sit well in the study. He got up and went to the princess's mansion. He picked up Xiao Yi from the cradle and said seriously, You can't get married until you're 80 years old. Do you hear me? Xiao Yi. Xiao Hang had just gone to take measurements. The imperial court wanted to make a junior assistant robe for him. After everything was ready, he would officially go to court to receive his title. The moment he returned to the mansion, he heard about Chong Jing's return and how she was beaten up by Xiao Ji. Coincidentally, Gu Jiao was free at the moment, so he went to the Marquis's mansion with Gu Jiao. They bumped into Xiao Ji, who came from the princess's mansion. "Father." Xiao Heng greeted him. "I heard that Chong Jing is back." His father missed Chong Jing and must be very happy. However, his father didn't look at him and snorted coldly. "Humph. Xiao Heng, what kind of reaction is this? Is he angry at me?" Xiao Heng asked Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao said, "I think he's angry at Chong Jing." "Why?" Xiao Heng didn't understand. He had just returned from outside and didn't know the details. Gu Jiao pointed to the piles of gifts in the courtyard. "Those are your sister's betrothal gifts." Xiao Heng. Chong Jing was joking, but Chong Kuan took it seriously. Not only did he let Chong Jing go back to Zhao country, but he also asked Uncle Li, who had watched Chong Jing grow up, to bring a lot of betrothal gifts to show his sincerity. This was truly a huge blunder. After the beating and scolding, it was time to ask about serious matters. The four sat down in the study. Chong Jing sat on the other side of Gu Jiao and used Gu Jiao to block Xiao Ji's murderous gaze. Xiao Ji was still angry and didn't want to talk to him. It was Xiao Heng who spoke. He asked, "Chong Jing, did you run into General Shen Yuan and Liao Chen on your way back?" Chong Jing was confused. "Why would I run into them?" Xiao Heng said, "They went to find the sword hut. They took the water route and left last month. You just came from that direction." The base of the sword hut was also on an island, not far from the Dark Knight Island. Chong Jing shook his head. "I took the land route and didn't run into them." Because they had brought a lot of valuable betrothal gifts, they were worried that the boxes would get wet if they took the water route, so they chose the official road. Chong Jing thought deeply. Did they go to the sword hut to take revenge for what happened to the shadow department? If so, they might have come for nothing. "Why do you say that?" Xiao Heng asked. Chong Jing said, "The sword hut has been destroyed." Xiao Ji looked up and glanced at him impatiently. "Who did you hear that from?" Chong Jing said seriously, "I didn't hear it from anyone. I saw it with my own eyes. When spring came, my father took me to destroy the sword hut, the real sword hut. The sword hut thought that it had hidden well, but in reality, the Dark Knight Island knew its exact location. However, Chong Kuan was not an ambitious person. If the sword hut didn't offend him, he wouldn't provoke the sword hut either." Xiao Ji frowned. "Why did your father want to destroy the sword hut?" Chong Jing felt wronged. "Isn't it because of you? My father died in the ice plains because of you. To make me feel better, he agreed to destroy your enemy, the sword hut. Strictly speaking, the sword hut was not Marquis Xian Ping's enemy. However, the sword hut had repeatedly attacked the Shen Yuan family, Shangguan Qing, and Gu Jiao. Marquis Xian Ping really wanted to destroy them." "Continue," Xiao Ji said. Chong Jing continued, "When the people of the Dark Knight sect went to the island of the sword hut, we found that there were corpses everywhere. There were no survivors. Someone had destroyed the sword hut before us. The weather was not hot and the corpses were not badly decomposed. According to Uncle Li's guess, they were killed about 3 days ago." Gu Jiao made a sound of surprise. Who could be so powerful? The sword hut was arrogant. It was not strange for them to have enemies. But what kind of enemy could destroy the entire sword hut? Chong Jing said, "The wounds on those people were all the same. My father and Uncle Li both thought that they died under the sword of the same person." Gu Jiao opened her eyes wide. "You mean one person destroyed the entire sword hut?" Xiao Ji and Xiao Heng were silent. A name flashed through the hearts of the father and son at the same time. Xiao Heng narrowed his eyes and said, "Long Yi. Digression. Long Yi, Lu, Lu, Lu." The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhhbqg com/89642_8264826/1046985540. HTML Genius will remember this site's address in 1 second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhhbqg.com. Chapter 941. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all available here. Gu Jiao nodded. Yes, it's like Long E. Long E is going to find the sword hut, and other than him, I can't think of anyone else who has such strength. Cough cough. Xiao Ji coughed heavily. The three of them looked at him in unison. Xiao Hang was speechless. Father, this is not the time to pretend, right? Gu Jiao touched her delicate little chin and said, Long E and you all went to the Sword Hut Island at the beginning of spring. Shenyuan Qi and the young master of the Sword Hut left with the sect master's sword last month. It seems that there is indeed another way to enter the Sword Hut Island. Chong Jing confirmed her guess. Yes, the entrance of the Sword Hut Island is full of mechanisms, but we know a secret passage. I don't know how Long Yi went up. Did he also go through that secret passage? Xiao Ji raised his eyebrows. It's not certain whether it was Long Yi or not. Although he said this, he understood in his heart that if the sword hut was really exterminated by someone, that person could only be Long Yi. Gu Jiao frowned in confusion. But why did Long Yi exterminate the sword hut? He is a member of the sword hut. Does he have a deep hatred with the sword hut? Xiao Hang paused and guessed. He didn't complete the mission given to him by the sword hut in the past. Perhaps the sword hut wanted to clean up the sect, so they made a move against him first. Gu Jiao pondered and nodded. That makes sense. But I still don't understand. Why did Long Yi give up his mission at that time? He suddenly didn't kill Shenyuan Qi. It's really strange. Xiao Hang sighed. We can only wait for Long Yi to come back to know the truth. I hope he has already recovered all his memories. Gu Jiao. Xiao Hang grasped Gu Jiao's hand and felt relieved. No matter what, since the sword hut has been destroyed, your danger has been resolved. What danger? Chong Jing was confused. She looked at Gu Jiao and asked, Does someone from the sword hut want to kill you? It was a long story. Gu Jiao thought about it and said, Something like that. Gu Jiao was the commander of the Black Wind Cavalry of the Shenyuan family. She had a grudge with the sword hut at the border. It was not strange that the people of the sword hut wanted to kill her. Thinking of this, Chong Jing did not suspect anything and said, Then you don't have to worry. Ah, that's not right. You said that the sword hut still has a young master. Oh, don't worry, he was poisoned by the goo poison on the island. When he returns, he will find that the goo master who can detoxify the poison is dead. Even if he survives, his martial arts will be crippled. Gu Jiao asked, I forgot to ask earlier. He is the young master. Why was he poisoned? Xiao Hang analyzed. I guess it was an internal struggle. The island master's wife did not like this illegitimate son and wanted her nephew to be the young master. Thus, she played some tricks on him and lured him out of the island. But now, it seems that he has profited from this disaster and avoided dying under Long Yi's sword. Chong Jing nodded. Right, the island master and his wife are dead. That whatever nephew is also dead. It seemed that everything in the dream had changed Long Yi. What kind of little angel was Long Yi? If he wanted to argue with her again, she would definitely not refuse. Gu Jiao looked at Xiao Hang. It has been several months since the beginning of spring. Where did Long Yi go? Will he return? Xiao Hang shook his head. I don't know. When Shetian regains his identity and memories, no one could guarantee what kind of life he would choose in the future. What did these years of being Long Yi mean to him? Was it a beautiful past worth recalling or an unbearable experience that he wanted to erase? Coming out of the study, Xiao Ji saw Uncle Li, who was directing the servants to carry the betrothal gifts. Xiao Ji had a deep impression of him. When he and Chong Jing had just arrived at the Dark Knight Island, this person had received them. Uncle Li's full name was Li Jiangping. He was an elder in the Dark Knight sect. Xiao Ji politely called him Elder Li, Marquis Xiao. Li Jiangping smiled and cupped his hands. Li Jiangping had been in the Dark Knight sect for many years and was highly regarded by Chong Kuan. In addition to his high martial arts and loyalty, he was also very careful. He was a very rare expert who was both rough and meticulous. More importantly, he loved Chong Jing very much. Chong Jing glanced at Uncle Li and said to Xiao Ji, "This time, thanks to Uncle Li speaking up for me. Otherwise, my father would not have agreed to this marriage." Xiao Ji was burning with anger. There was no marriage at all. Chong Jing felt wronged. "I meant to find an excuse to come out and see you. Also, you owe me a few boxes of marbles." Xiao Ji's body trembled. "This is your real purpose for leaving the island?" He really didn't want to see this brat anymore. He put his hands behind his back and walked forward angrily. Thinking of something, he turned back and warned sternly, "You're not allowed to play with marbles for E. It's very dangerous." Chong Jing said, "The princess already told me that I can't let her play with the little things." Xiao Ji clenched his fists. "As expected, you're so familiar with Qin Fengwan. I think you want to go to heaven." Li Jiangping laughed dryly and looked at Xiao Ji. "Marquis Xiao, you see," Xiao Ji said faintly, "you know the truth. He just came out to play. Take back the betrothal gifts. I won't marry into the Dark Knight Island." Li Jiangping hurriedly said, "Marquis Xiao, don't be in a hurry to refuse." Xiao Ji said coldly, "What? My daughter is only 8 months old. Do you really want my daughter to marry over?" Li Jiangping hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, "No, that's not what I meant. It's like this. In order to come back to see you, the young master had no choice but to do this. In his heart, he respects you as his father. If the sect master finds out that he told such a big lie, he will definitely be heavily punished. I have a compromise. It won't make things difficult for the Marquis, and it can also let the young master avoid punishment." "What is it?" Xiao Ji asked. Li Jiangping said what he was thinking. The Marquis can choose a well-educated woman from the capital and adopt her as his adopted daughter. She will marry into the Dark Knight Island. What do you think? Jiao Jiao was also Duke An's adopted daughter. She would marry Ah Heng as Duke An's daughter. Xiao Ji felt that this method was not bad. "Do you agree?" he asked Chong Jing. Chong Jing said, "If you find someone I like, I will agree." Xiao Ji asked him, "Then what kind of person do you like?" Chong Jing thought seriously for a moment, then said, "Someone like the princess." Xiao Ji punched down, and a large bump appeared on Chong Jing's head. Li Jiangping's method was not bad. Xiao Ji temporarily arranged for him and the disciples of the Dark Knight Island to live in the Marquis Manor. The betrothal gifts were first placed in the storeroom, and the key was given to Li Jiangping for safekeeping. Xiao Ji's attitude was very clear. These things still belonged to the Dark Knight Island. He would not take them. When Li Jiangping arranged for the disciples to move the betrothal gifts, a small accident occurred. His hand pressed against a rusty nail, nearly piercing through his palm. When the news reached the Princess Manor, the family was preparing to eat dinner. Gu Jiao stood up and said to Princess Xianyang, "Xiao Ji, Xiao Hang and Chong Jing, you eat first. I will go take a look." "I will go with you." Xiao Hang also put down his chopsticks. "Do you need a medicine box?" "Yes," Gu Jiao said. "Wait for me here." Xiao Hang went to the Lanting courtyard to get the medicine box, and went to the Marquis Manor with Gu Jiao and Chong Jing. Outside the storeroom, Li Jiangping sat on a small stool. His injured left hand was wrapped in a handkerchief by a disciple of the Dark Knight sect. "Let me take a look," Gu Jiao said to him. Li Jiangping looked at Gu Jiao in shock, and then looked at Chong Jing. Chong Jing said, young madam is a doctor. Li Jiangping suddenly understood. Ah, I see. But perhaps it was because of the difference between men and women. He smiled awkwardly and said with some embarrassment, Then I will have to trouble young madam. Xiao Hang had someone bring a table and put the medicine box on it. Gu Jiao opened the medicine box and took out saline to clean his wound. Let me see what kind of nail it is, he said to the disciple of the Dark Knight sect. The disciple of the Dark Knight sect walked forward and handed Gu Jiao a bloody nail wrapped in a clean handkerchief. Gu Jiao frowned. It really is a rusty nail. It seemed that he had to get tetanus. Gu Jiao looked inside. There was, but it was not an immune tetanus. It was the kind that required a skin test. Bear with it, Gu Jiao said to Li Jiangping. Li Jiangping looked curiously at Gu Jiao's medicine box and said in a daze, Okay. Speaking of which, young madam, what kind of treatment method is this? I have never seen it before. Gu Jiao said, It was created by my master, so it is not convenient to disclose it. Li Jiangping smiled and tactfully didn't pursue the matter. Instead he said, I presume young madam's master is a hidden expert. The first island master of our Dark Knight Island was also an expert. Chong Jing. Xiao Hung called out to Chong Jing. Chong Jing understood and said to the disciples of the Dark Knight sect, You can leave first. I will call you later. Yes. Everyone left. Gu Jiao took out the needle and tested it. Li Jiangping was in so much pain that he made an emoji. After 15 minutes, there were no adverse reactions. Gu Jiao injected tetanus into his muscles. Li Jiangping contributed another wave of emojis. Chong Jing said to Li Jiangping, Uncle Li, it is enough that you know young madam's medical skills. Don't mention it to outsiders. Li Jiangping wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said, An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring is a crime. I understand, don't worry. Chong Jing stayed behind to take care of Li Jiangping, and the young couple returned to the princess residence. Gu Jiao had just sat down when she found a bowl of medicine in front of her. Princess Xinyang said lightly, The medicine is ready. Drink it first. I have asked the imperial doctor. This prescription is more effective when taken before meals. Gu Jiao sighed for her secretly. Whatever prescription was useless. After all, Tao Tao was so powerful. Xiao Hang looked at the dark medicine. He could guess how bitter it was without tasting it. He leaned close to Gu Jiao and whispered, Don't drink it. It's okay. She drank the medicine and almost vomited. Today's medicine is so bitter. Princess Xinyang wondered, Is it bitter? Isn't it the same as yesterday? Xiao Hang couldn't bear to see his dear wife continue to be tortured by the bitter medicine. He decided to tell his mother the truth. Mother, actually we don't plan to. A plate of soft and oily braised pork trotters was placed in front of Gu Jiao. It looked, smelled, and tasted good. There was Gu Jiao's favorite rice chili in it. Unexpectedly, Gu Jiao only took a sniff before she suddenly turned around and retched. Digression. The last day is double. Little cutie with monthly votes, remember to vote. The latest chapter of this book is not finished. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet here. https://www.zhbqg.com/896428266/1046966959. HTML Genius remembers the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 942. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. Everyone's expression changed. Gu Jiao's status in the family was now outstanding. Even Xiao Yi was very willing to let her massage her little feet. Her slightest movement could cause a storm in the house. Xiao Hang was the first to react. He quickly stood up and came to her side. He gently stroked her back and bent down to ask her, "What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Gu Jiao endured the discomfort in her stomach and said, "I suddenly feel a little nauseous." Princess Xinyong's eyes suddenly became bright. Xiao Ji's expression also gradually changed. One had given birth to him before, while the other had been given birth to by a woman for him. In short, they were both experienced people. They were much more sensitive to this kind of reaction than Xiao Hang, who was just starting out. Princess Xinyong said to Xiao Ji, "Leave us for a moment." She had something private to ask. Xiao Ji wasn't a blockhead like General Qian. He knew what to do. He asked, "Should I leave, or call for an imperial physician?" Princess Xinyong was stunned. She looked at him in surprise, as if to say, "Is your brain so good?" "Say." Xiao Ji received her gaze and shook his head self-mockingly. In one day, Chong Jing had collected his corpse, and then Princess Xinyong had questioned his brain. Life was really as tragic as blood. He let out a long sigh and left. Princess Xinyong looked at Gu Jiao and asked seriously, "Did your period come this month?" "HM?" Gu Jiao was stunned. "No." Xiao Hang answered for her. Every day was his husband's right. Of course, he remembered that she hadn't had her period ever since they got married. He had never been a father, so he was a little slow in this aspect. However, he was good at reading people's expressions. When his mother asked, he immediately understood. "Mother, you can't be." Princess Xinyong neither admitted nor denied, "My period didn't come." "Didn't you suspect anything? Especially you, Jiao Jiao, you're a doctor." Gu Jiao said, "My period has been irregular for the past 6 months." She didn't know if it was because of her puberty, or if it was because of the war and excessive exhaustion that had affected her body, but this year, her period either didn't come for 2 consecutive months or came twice a month. Xiao Hang used to remember her menstrual cycle, but now that her menstrual cycle was messed up, he was at his wits' end. Princess Xinyong was surprised. "She can even get pregnant like this. It's all thanks to my pregnancy medicine." Cough. Xiao Hang choked. He didn't have the heart to tell his mother that it was only after the two of them had taken measures to prevent pregnancy. He thought to himself, it was clearly just once. Moreover, both of them were unorganized, stumbling, and did not experience it well for the first time. Did they succeed that time? Were they using contraceptives to avoid loneliness later on? This was really, he didn't know what to say. Wait a minute. She was just retching. She might not be pregnant. Perhaps his mother had been happy for nothing. Xiao Hang poured a cup of warm water for Gu Jiao and had the servants take away the plate of braised pork trotters. Princess Xinyong had a light palate. In the years when Xiao Hang wasn't by her side, she started eating vegetables. After she became pregnant with Xiao Yi, she started eating meat again to increase her nutrition. Even now, when she was breastfeeding, she still couldn't stop eating meat like fish soup. But overall, it wasn't greasy. Pork trotters and braised pork trotters were dishes that catered to the children's tastes. In the end, she was worried that the two of them wouldn't be used to it, so she had the servants bring some pickled vegetables over. The imperial physician came very quickly. Before they finished eating, he was already waiting outside the courtyard. "I'm full," Gu Jiao said. "I'm also full," Xiao Heng said. Today, Yujin wasn't here. Princess Xinyong summoned the other servants and had them clean up the room. She brought the two children and planned to meet the imperial physician in the wing next door. However, as soon as the three of them stepped over the threshold, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. There was a dense mass of human heads. Did they empty out the imperial medical department? They didn't even leave a night shift for the emperor, right? Xiao Ji turned around and said to the imperial physicians with his head held high, one by one. That night, Gu Jiao didn't do anything. She just sat on the chair and let the imperial physicians take her pulse. In the end, everyone came to the same conclusion. She was pregnant. Everyone has worked hard. Princess Xinyang gave each imperial physician a large red envelope. The imperial physicians' complaints about being dragged in by Marquis Xianping with a knife to their necks disappeared. "All right, you two should go back and rest early," she said to Xiao Hang and Xiao Hang. "Be careful for the first 3 months. Don't be too indulgent." If she really didn't let them do anything, it probably wouldn't work. She could only settle for the next best thing. Xiao Hang coughed lightly. "I know, mother." He held Gu Jiao's hand and returned to Lanting Courtyard. Little Jing Kong and Shangguan Qing had gone out and weren't in the Fu. Lanting Courtyard was very quiet. The two of them strolled along the limestone path overflowing with the fragrance of flowers. There were servants in front of them who wanted to salute the two of them. Xiao Hang raised his hand, and everyone understood and silently retreated. Yu came from the corridor with the clothes that had just been dried. Just as she was about to call out "Miss," the mama beside her tugged at her sleeve. The mama shook her head at her. "Oh." Yu wasn't stupid. She turned around and went back to her room. "Just now, was it morning sickness?" Xiao Hing asked. From the start of the meal until now, Gu Jiao had not said a word. He couldn't figure out what she was thinking, so he could only try his best to start a conversation. Gu Jiao grunted, "I think so." She was still willing to talk. Xiao Hing secretly sighed in relief. He turned to look at her calm expression. He couldn't guess if she was as calm as she was inside. "Actually, it's not bad to have a child," he said softly. "If it's a son, it'll be like Jing Kong and Xiaobao. If it's a daughter, it'll be like Yi. Don't you think it's quite cute?" Gu Jiao looked at him in surprise. "You actually praised Jing Kong for being cute." Xiao Hang was stunned. Did I praise him wrongly? He's not cute?" "If he's not cute, how did you fall into his trap in the first place? You even didn't find it annoying that he stuck to you all the time." Gu Jiao said, "He's cute. It's just that it's strange to hear it from you." The two of them had been fighting since the first day they met. They had been fighting with wits and courage. She knew that they had used all kinds of martial arts skills. The window paper was broken just like that. Xiao Hang showed a decent smile. The scenery of the princess residence was pleasant. Its style and layout were among the top 3 in the entire capital. The cool breeze and the fragrance of flowers made people feel relaxed and happy. The two of them walked forward for a while. "Actually..." Gu Jiao opened her mouth. Xiao Heng's heart suddenly tightened. He seemed to be afraid of hearing something he didn't want to hear from her, so he decided to make the decision himself. "Actually, we're still young. I've just started my career. I really don't have the energy to take care of a child." When he said this, his breathing became tight. It was too uncomfortable. He couldn't say it out loud. Gu Jiao stopped. The two of them were holding hands, so he stopped as well. Gu Jiao looked at him steadily. "You don't want this child?" "That's not what I meant," Xiao Hang instinctively refuted. How could he not want it? Wait, she was asking him? He looked at her with a hint of nervousness. "Jiao Jiao, why do you ask? Do you want it?" Gu Jiao looked down at her flat belly and nodded. Xiao Heng's eyes flashed with a hint of ecstasy. "Jiao Jiao, why do you have such an expression? Do you think I don't want it?" Xiao Heng smiled awkwardly and didn't answer the question directly. Instead, he said, "Then why didn't you say anything just now? I thought you were unhappy." "I just haven't recovered yet." She looked at her belly seriously. "How did I get a baby?" She had become a curious baby. Xiao Heng's heart melted. How could there be such a wonderful Jiao Jiao in the world? He patted her head and couldn't help but ask, "Why did you suddenly change your mind?" Gu Jiao said honestly, "It wasn't sudden. After I met Tang Yueshan that time, my state of mind seemed to have changed a lot. That was because Tang Ming was not a perfect son. He could not even be considered a good son. He had too many personality flaws, but Tang Yueshan's love for him had never weakened. He had never given up on this son of his. The strength that she had lost when she was abandoned when she was young was regained from Tang Yueshan. Xiao Heng really didn't expect that the person who changed her state of mind was Tang Yueshan. He pulled her into his arms and gently patted her head. He had a lot of words in his heart. He wanted to thank her and praise her, but when the words reached his lips, he realized that there were no words that could properly express them. He just hugged her tighter and let her feel his emotions. He wanted his child with her. He was looking forward to the birth of this little life. The latest chapter of this book isn't finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89646800093. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 943. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels will be read for free. All the novels that can't be found online are available here. After returning to the house, the first thing Gu Jiao did was to take out the small medicine box. She asked Xiao Hang to take a shower first, while she stared at the small medicine box. "Tell me, did you do something? Did little Do poke holes?" A gust of night wind blew, and the small medicine box was as quiet as a chicken. No one would ever know if it was a coincidence, or if it was a flaw in the family planning of some unscrupulous little medicine box. After Gu Jiao took a shower, Xiao Hang kissed her for a while, but didn't go to the last step. He endured it and let her go to sleep. The fact that she was pregnant was not completely untraceable. For example, she was tired quickly in the past few days. He thought it was because he was too strong and made her too tired. "So you are pregnant. But I am indeed very strong." Xiao Hang looked at Gu Jiao, who fell asleep in his arms. He raised his eyebrows, stroked her cheeks, kissed her, and then pulled a thin silk cloth to cover her. The sound of quarreling came from outside the courtyard. It was little Jing Kong and Shangguan Qing who had returned. Xiao Hang glanced at Gu Jiao, got out of bed quietly, opened the door, and said to little Jing Kong, "Jiao Jiao is asleep. You go take a shower first." Hearing that Jiao Jiao was asleep, little Jing Kong immediately turned on the silent mode, waved at Shangguan Qing, and said silently, "Brother Qing, goodbye." Shangguan Qing leaned on the pillar, exhausted. He didn't even have the strength to twitch the corner of his mouth. "Haha, it's best if we don't meet again." Little Jing Kong was so energetic that it was scary. The two of them went out together, shopping, watching lanterns, and going to the lake. They did exactly the same things. He was 6 years old now, so he didn't need Shangguan Qing to carry him all the time. Shangguan Qing was exhausted, but little Jing Kong was still bouncing around. He jumped onto the steps, waved at his bad brother-in-law, and went into the house to visit Gu Jiao. Seeing that she had indeed fallen asleep, he secretly nodded his head. Bad brother-in-law did not lie to him. "You're so sweaty. Hurry up and take a shower," Xiao Hang urged him in a low voice. Little Jing Kong put his hands on his waist and said in a low voice, "My sweat is fragrant. Your sweat is the stinky one. Stinky brother-in-law." "Xiao Hang, little monk, it's been 3.5 years, but you're still as arrogant as ever. Don't you know that you're about to fall out of favor?" Fetched some water for little Jing Kong. He stripped himself naked and climbed into the wooden tub to take a bath. He was very happy today, not only because he had gone shopping with Brother Qing, but also because Zhao Jiao had promised to take him on a trip to the Imperial College tomorrow. The kind that won't lead brother-in-law astray. As he bathed, he started singing again in his small bathhouse. The door was closed, so he was not worried that he would disturb Gu Jiao. However, the maidservants on duty outside the door overheard him. At first, there were only 2 of them, but gradually, 3 or 4 of them came. By the time Xiao Hang came over to check on his bath, all the servants in the courtyard had gathered here. They pricked up their ears to listen to the song, and they were having fun as they listened. Young master. Yu Ye was the first to notice Xiao Heng. As soon as she called out, the rest of the servants came back to their senses and respectfully moved aside. Xiao Hang did not say anything and pushed the door open to enter the room. Little Jing Kong stood in his small wooden tub, struck a pose, and gazed affectionately in front of him. "Where is my young master?" Immediately, he changed his tune in a second and sang with perfect articulation. "In order to save young Master Li, I left my home." Who would have thought that the #1 scholar of the Imperial College would be wearing a red robe and a hat with palace flowers on it? So fresh. He looked as proud as he could be, as proud as he could be, as if he had really made it to the top of the imperial examination. Xiao Heng's mouth twitched, and he said ruthlessly, "Jiao Jiao won't be able to go on an excursion with you tomorrow." The unruffled singing stopped abruptly. "Why?" Little Jing Kong turned around and asked seriously. Xiao Heng flicked his wide sleeves, raised his chin, and said, "Jiao Jiao is pregnant. From now on, your position will be in danger. Good night." After Xiao Heng said that, he walked away valiantly. Little Jing Kong felt as if he had been struck by lightning. His small body swayed in the wooden tub. He stretched out one hand in front of him and covered his heart with the other. With a sorrowful expression, he sang with a strong choking voice, "Life is like a ruthless carving knife. It has changed our appearance. Will we wither before we bloom? I once had a dream." Shangguan Qing went to the princess's residence and learned from Princess Xinyang that Gu Jiao was pregnant. He was quite surprised. So fast. His stinky brother and that girl had only been married for less than 2 months. Xiao Yi had fallen asleep. After Marquis Xianping coaxed his daughter, he took Chong Jing out of the residence to carry out a mission. Princess Xinyang glanced at her son and said, "Is it fast? He's already 20. He'll be 21 soon. He's still young." Shangguan Qing muttered. Princess Xinyang said, "Let's not talk about your brother. Let's talk about you. When do you plan to get married? Does your mother have any plans?" Shangguan Qing sighed bitterly. "Mother, why are we talking about this again? Didn't we not talk about it?" Princess Xinyang said earnestly, "We didn't talk about it before because your body didn't allow it. Getting married would only delay her. Now that you've recovered, you're no different from a normal person. Naturally, you can get married and have children like a normal person." Shangguan Qing didn't want to get married so early. He wanted to play around for a few more years. Princess Xinyang continued, "Your brother is going to be a father soon. You don't even have a wife. Chong Jing is 2 or 3 years younger than you, but she knows to bring betrothal gifts to the capital to find a suitable marriage. I'm not asking you to get married immediately. If you agree, I'll take a look for you first." His mother's will was so firm. It looked like it would be hard to refuse. Shangguan Qing put on an act and said, "But mother, I have high standards." "How high?" Princess Xinyang asked. Shangguan Qing's eyes flashed. "First, she has to be as beautiful as you and mother. Then, she has to be as gentle as you and as humorous as mother. She also has to be educated and reasonable, literate, poetry and songs, proficient in everything." He racked his brains. "Martial arts." "Yes. She has to know martial arts. Her martial arts can't be worse than sister-in-law's. Otherwise, how can she protect me?" Princess Xinyang was speechless. It was late at night. The bright moon hung high in the sky, and the stars shone brightly. The singing in Little Jing Kong stopped and was replaced by the continuous chirping of cicadas. The two mansions next to each other fell into a deep sleep one after the other. The weather was hot and dry, and Gu Jiao was sweating all over. She was pregnant, so Xiao Hang didn't dare to put too many ice cubes in the room, fearing that she would catch a cold. Xiao Hang went to get a cattail leaf fan and lay down beside her, fanning her again and again. When his left hand got tired, he switched to his right hand. When his right hand got tired, he switched back to his left hand. After a while, both his arms were sore and his eyelids drooped. Finally, after the folding fan fell from his hand again, he closed his eyes and fell into a deep sleep. The moon was dark and the wind was strong. The chirping of cicadas on the tree and the croaking of frogs in the lotus pond lingered in the dark night. Xiao Hang left a small candle for Gu Jiao. The weak candlelight shone on the small medicine box beside her. Compared to its shabby appearance when they first arrived, it had been renovated a lot. Although it still wasn't shiny, the brown wooden box made it look more in line with the characteristics of this dynasty. Suddenly, a figure flashed by outside the window. Immediately after, the door latch was slowly pried open with a dagger. The wooden door of the new room didn't creak, and it didn't cause any noise when it was pushed open. A masked figure dressed as a maidservant flashed in. She first glanced warily at the bed with the curtains. After making sure that the two of them hadn't been awakened, she tiptoed around the room to search. First, she searched the cabinet, then the box, and even the treasure chest. But the moment she turned around, she was surprised. She didn't expect that the thing she was looking for was on the table, and that she had wasted so much time looking for it. She came to the table and looked greedily at the small medicine box. First, she tried to pry it open with her hands, but when she couldn't, she used the dagger to pry it open. However, when she couldn't pry it open, she curled her lips and laughed. "It's you." She put away the dagger and opened her arms to move the small medicine box. Something unexpected happened. "What's going on? Why can't I move it? Is there something stuck to the box?" But she quickly thought of a problem. Even if the box was stuck, the table wasn't. With her strength and skill, it wouldn't be a problem for her to move it. She tried a few more times, but found that the table didn't show any signs of being moved. So, the box was really too heavy, causing her to be unable to move it? "No, I'm already here. Even if I can't move it, I still have to move it." She sank her qi into her dantian and circulated almost all of the internal energy in her body, transferring it to her arms. The blood vessels in her pair of strong arms quickly expanded, as if they were going to burst out of her sleeves at any moment. She gritted her teeth and shouted in her heart. This time, she finally moved the small medicine box. Actually, it was only difficult when she moved it, but it wasn't that heavy when she moved it. She smiled coldly and carried the box out of the room. The moment she disappeared into the night, Xiao Hang slowly opened his eyes from within the curtains. His eyes were clear, without the slightest hint of sleep. Digression, Little Jing Kong Karaoke Repertoire, Huangmei Opera, Old Boys. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-82642-826/1046799276. HTML Genius memorized this site's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, m. zhbqg.com. Chapter 944. The newest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all here. The masked servant girl took the small medicine box and left the Lanting courtyard without stopping. Then she left the princess's residence and went straight to the side door of Marquis Xian Ping's residence. She probably planned to jump over the wall there. The Marquis's residence was heavily guarded. From time to time, patrolling guards would pass by with swords. The servant girl's qigong was very high and she could successfully avoid them every time. Finally, the servant girl came to the wall. Marquis Xian Ping was the first marquis of Zhao country. The wall of his residence was higher than normal people's. Of course, to the servant girl, this was not a problem. The servant girl hugged the small medicine box and easily jumped up. Her toes touched the wall and she jumped out of the residence. However, the moment he landed, something unexpected happened. A huge net fell from the sky and covered the maidservant from head to toe. The servant girl's reaction was fast. She quickly pulled out the dagger at her waist and cut the net open. But in the time it took for her to move, a row of spears was placed on her neck. It was just a group of guards. The servant girl did not think much of them. But in the next second, the servant girl did not dare to act rashly. Because outside, more than 100 archers had drawn their longbows and aimed their cold arrows at him. This was not a one-on-one or one-on-many fight. This was an absolute tactical suppression. No expert could easily escape. The maidservant held a dagger in one hand and a small medicine box in the other. Her eyes were cold as she thought about how to deal with the situation. Behind the archers, a man in a crescent white robe came forward, surrounded by a dozen shadow guards holding torches. The archers opened up a path in an orderly manner, and when the man and his group entered the encirclement, they quickly closed up their formation. The light of the fire shone on the young man's face. The servant girl recognized him and her eyes trembled. Xiaoheng stopped about 10 steps away from the maidservant. He looked at her coldly and said indifferently, "You really didn't disappoint me." "You?" The servant girl was about to say something but immediately covered her mouth. Xiaoheng smiled faintly. "There's no need to pretend. I've already recognized you, elderly." The servant girl's body stiffened at the mention of elderly. She subconsciously raised her hand to touch her face. Xiaoheng calmly said, "The human skin mask didn't fall off." The maidservant went to touch her chest again. Xiaoheng said, "It didn't drop either." The maidservant was only short of going to scout the birds. Xiaoheng's face darkened. "Stop." The maid. No, to be precise, it was Li Zhongping. He frowned and looked at Xiaoheng in shock. Xiaoheng's expression was calm, without a trace of doubt. From this, it could be seen that he was certain of his identity. There was no point in denying it. He asked in a low voice, "How did you guess?" Xiaoheng said coldly, "It's very simple. You revealed a flaw from the very beginning." Li Zhongping frowned. "I don't understand." Xiaoheng raised his finger, and an accompanying secret guard took out a handkerchief from his bosom. He opened it and handed it to Xiaoheng. Xiaoheng picked up the iron nail that had long dried blood and said, "You were injured because your palm was accidentally pierced by a nail when you were carrying the betrothal gifts. You did put on a show and nailed the nail into the box. However, this is where the problem lies. These betrothal gifts are very precious. In order to prevent moisture, you gave up on taking the waterway. This measure was clearly effective. The other nails were all dry and intact, but this one was rusty. Moreover, its hole was new. It could be seen that it was just nailed in. Perhaps you will say that I'm just mending a nail, but I think that no one will mend a rusty nail." Li Zhongping never expected that he would make such a mistake. No, this was not a mistake. This was flawless. It was just that this guy was too abnormal, and his thoughts were too meticulous. Even such a tiny clue couldn't escape his eyes. Li Zhongping gritted his teeth. Just based on a rusty nail? More than that. Xiaoheng said, "When Chongjing told you not to spread Gu Jiao's medical skills, do you remember what you said? An ordinary man is innocent, but treasuring a jade ring is a crime." "I understand, don't worry." At that time, the words flashed through his mind. Li Zhongping did not understand where his flaw was. "What's wrong with this sentence?" Xiaoheng said indifferently, you didn't notice it yourself, right? Before you said this, you glanced at the small medicine box on the table while wiping your sweat. Therefore, I'm very sure that what you said about treasuring a jade ring is referring to my wife's box. You deliberately got injured to test the medicine box in my wife's hands. Was this fellow a judge? His eyes were so sharp. Li Jiangping originally wanted to deny it, but it seemed impossible now. This was definitely the first time he had exposed himself so quickly. What the hell? He was clearly a guy who did not know martial arts, but for some reason, his eyes and aura were enough to make people's hearts jump. All of this happened too quickly. Li Jiangping was stunned, and there was too little time for him to react and make a decision. He could only rely on his many years of martial arts practice to rush toward Xiao Heng, the only one who did not know martial arts at the scene. Xiao Heng's appearance happened to block the line of sight of a wave of archers for him. As long as he was fast enough, he could catch Xiao Heng and force these people to let him go. As for the secret guards by Xiao Heng's side, they were no match for him at all with their mediocre skills. Li Jiangping was an expert of Dark Knight Island, and there was no doubt about his skills. His internal strength shook off those secret guards, and his hand fiercely grabbed Xiao Heng's neck. But just as he was about to succeed, a certain someone who had been hibernating on the tree for a long time curled his lips disdainfully, aimed at him, and pulled the trigger. With a loud bang, Li Jiangping was sent flying. He hit the wall behind him heavily and fell to the ground in a sorry state. Tisk. Shangguan Qing, who was on the tree branch, frowned and seemed to be dissatisfied with his shot. The shot just now hit the small medicine box in Li Jiangping's arms. He was not shot open on the spot, but he was still badly shaken. He spat out a mouthful of blood. This time, the steamed bun in his lapel really fell out. Shangguan Qing's eyes were burning. Little Jing Kong can burn me, but you can't. He decisively loaded the gun. This was a newly improved gun. Its accuracy and speed had increased, and the corresponding recoil was also much stronger. He was still not used to it. I'll use you to practice tonight. He aimed at Li Jiangping's head. Right at this moment, an unexpected event occurred abruptly. Numerous terrifying sword chi slashed down from the sky and forcefully pushed back the secret guards of the Marquis of Schwamping's estate. Subsequently, a gray-clothed swordsman flashed down to grab Li Jiangping, who was on the ground, before swiftly leaving the scene. That person's lightness skill was probably not inferior to Gu Qingfeng's. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared without a trace with Li Jiangping. Shangguan Qing jumped down from the tree branch with the new gun in his arms. He looked at the place where Li Jiangping fell, and then looked at Xiao Heng. Aren't you going to chase? Xiao Heng looked in the direction of the two people and said, No need. Shangguan Qing carried the gun on his shoulder. But they also took away Jiao Jiao's box. Li Jiangping's hands were fast. Before leaving, he did not forget to hold the small medicine box on the ground. It's okay, Xiao Heng said. Shangguan Qing said, What do you mean it's okay? That box is very precious, okay? I shot it just now, but it didn't break. Xiao Heng was not surprised. Jiao Jiao said that the small medicine box was not something from their world, and the medicine box might not be its original body. It was just that, in their dimension, it could only appear in this form. Shangguan Qing snorted. Is it really okay? If Jiao Jiao wakes up and finds that the box is gone, she will be angry. I'll see how you coax her. Xiao Heng smiled and did not continue the topic. Instead he asked, Are you okay? Are you hurt? The new gun had a lot of recoil. Shangguan Qing rubbed his small chest. It's a little numb, but it's okay. Speaking of which, what's wrong with Li Jiangping? Why did he steal Jiao Jiao's medicine box? Who ordered him? Dark Knight Island? Xiao Heng shook his head. It's not Dark Knight Island, it's the Sword Hut. Wasn't the Sword Hut destroyed? Shangguan Qing had heard from his father that Chong Jing and the others went to the Sword Hut Island to take revenge. Xiao Heng said thoughtfully, Now it seems that the Sword Hut used a trick to escape. After midnight, Marquis Xian Ping and Chong Jing returned home. The enemies who had followed him for a few days were successfully killed by Chong Jing. None of them escaped. As expected, Chongjing was easy to use. Why are you all here? Don't you need to sleep? As soon as he entered the courtyard, Marquis Xianping saw his two sons talking by candlelight in the central room. Xiao Heng glanced at Chongjing and told him about Li Zhongping. Marquis Xianping looked at Chongjing. Chongjing was very shocked. If someone else said this, he would not believe it. But since it came from Xiao Heng, he fell silent. Marquis Xianping snorted coldly and sneered. He doesn't look like a good person. Chongjing retorted softly, Uncle Li is very good. He has always taken care of me and my 7 sisters. Every time we get into trouble, he will plead for me. Marquis Xianping looked at him strangely. Even if he doesn't plead for you, your father can't bear to punish you. Chongjing was speechless. The truth was in front of him. Marquis Xianping would not speak for a bad person who stole his daughter-in-law's medicine box. So that Li Zhongping is just putting on an act to please you. Chongjing continued to argue weakly. But this time, he persuaded my father. Only then did my father allow me to come and propose marriage. Xiao Hang analyzed for Chongjing. If he did not persuade your father, he could not have come with you to the Zhao kingdom. His goal is very clear. It is Zhao Jiao's medicine box. Chongjing made a final struggle in a low voice. He was also the one who discovered the sword hut. Xiao Heng sighed. He had to discover it. First, he had to make enough contributions to gain your father's favor. Second, the rules of the Dark Knight clan are strict. He could not leave the island without permission. He could only use the excuse of monitoring the sword hut every few days to hide his dealings with the sword hut. Is that so? Chongjing already understood. Regardless of whether Uncle Li was a spy of the sword hut or not, from the moment he stole Gu Jiao's medicine box, he was no longer Elder Li of the Dark Knight clan. The Dark Knight clan would never ask him to do such a thing. Shangguan Qing said suspiciously, but I still don't understand. Why did they steal Zhao Jiao's medicine box? Are there many precious medicinal materials in the box? Shangguan Qing asked and answered his own question. Or is it that the box is invulnerable? Even firearms cannot break it. They want to take the box back to make armor? Xiao Hang shook his head. He did not explain the secret of the medicine box to the people in the room. The medicine box had an inexhaustible supply of medicine. It could also be connected to the operating room in another space. It was indeed a rare treasure. Then there was another problem. What did the sword hut want these for? It was the sword hut, not the medicine hut. Could it be that from now on, they would not practice the sword anymore and would all become doctors? Or could it be that one of them had an incurable disease and coincidentally, there was medicine in the medicine box to treat it? This possibility could be ruled out. With the relationship between Li Zhongping and Chongjing, as long as he asked, no matter what medicine it was, Gu Jiaojiao would be willing to give it to him. There was no need to go through the trouble of stealing the medicine box. Marquis Xianping did not inquire about whether there was anything strange in Gu Jiaojiao's medicine box. The medicine box belonged to Gu Jiaojiao. He would not pry into other people's privacy. In addition, no matter what it was not a reason for the sword hut to covet it. The people of the sword hut really deserved to die. Thinking of something, Xiao Hang asked Chongjing. The people who died were the island master of the sword hut and his wife. Who identified those corpses? Uncle Li. Li Zhongping. Chongjing corrected herself. Only he was secretly observing the sword hut. He was also the only one who recognized who on the island. Therefore, when he said that they were the corpses, my father and I both believed him. Xiao Hang said, it seems that the real master of the sword hut is not dead. Shangguan Qing asked, did Long Yi go to the island? Xiao Hang shook his head. Now, it's hard to say. Maybe he went and killed many disciples of the sword hut. Some of them escaped. Maybe before he could do anything, the people of the Dark Knight Gate arrived on the island. That accident was directed and acted by the sword hut to deceive the Dark Knight Gate. Shangguan Qing nodded. Li Jiangping knew that the Dark Night Gate was going to kill the Sword Hut, so he informed the Sword Hut in advance. Therefore, the Sword Hut acted out such a massacre. It seems reasonable. Xiao Heng thought for a bit and said, the possibility of Long Yi going there is very high. Otherwise, with the strength of the Sword Hut, they would not have to avoid the Dark Night Gate like this. Chong Jing said seriously, our Dark Night Gate is very powerful. Xiao Heng said, of course you are powerful. However, with Li Jiangping as a spy, it is not difficult for the Sword Hut to set up an ambush on the island. Chong Jing did not say anything. Indeed, they trusted Uncle Li too much. When they went to the island, Uncle Li had always led the way. If Uncle Li had deliberately led them to a place with traps, they would have suffered heavy casualties. Chong Jing still did not understand. But Uncle Li, why didn't Li Jiangping make a move? Even if we had some casualties on the Sword Hut Island, we would not have suspected him. He could have used this opportunity to weaken the strength of the Dark Night Island. Xiao Heng looked at him seriously. What if he hurt you? You can't come to Zhao country to propose marriage, so he can't get close to Jiao. Chong Jing said, oh. At this point, the last trace of hope in the bottom of Chong Jing's heart was extinguished. Li Jiangping was a spy through and through. In fact, there were still some doubts. Xiao Heng wanted to go back and slowly sort out his thoughts. Is that box really okay? Shangguan Qing was still thinking about the small medicine box. After all, it was something that could not be broken even by a gun. It should be known that even the armor on Gu Jiao's body could not withstand the power of a gun. Xiao Heng said with certainty, it's okay. They can't steal it. On the quiet long street, a carriage was moving quickly. After Li Jiangping got on the carriage, he immediately put the small medicine box under the seat and covered it with his feet to prevent it from falling out of the carriage due to the bumps. The swordsman who saved him gave him an elixir for internal injuries. He raised his head and swallowed it. After circulating his qi for a small cycle, he took a deep breath and said with relief, it was too dangerous just now. What weapon did that guy have in his hand? It almost killed me. It's called a gun, the swordsman said. He hesitated and said, but in Ghost Mountain, the gun was not so powerful. The swordsman did not participate in the Battle of Ghost Mountain, but Elder Lu and the others sent letters back to the Sword Hut. Li Jiangping sighed and said, my identity has been exposed. I can't go back to the Dark Knight sect in the future. Speaking of this, Li Jiangping became angry. He had been hiding for 20 years and deceived the entire island. But in the end, he was defeated by a young man who was still wet behind the ears. The swordsman said, it's okay. You got the medicine box and completed your mission. You don't have to go back to the Dark Knight sect in the future. Li Jiangping sighed and said, I didn't expect that the thing you were looking for would be in the hands of a little girl. The swordsman was also in disbelief. Yes, we always thought that the thing was in the Dark Knight sect. You spent 20 years on the Dark Knight Island in vain. Li Jiangping smiled and said, it wasn't in vain. If I hadn't been hiding on the Dark Knight Island, I wouldn't have had the chance to come to the Zhao Kingdom with Chong Jing. The swordsman said, that's true. Li Jiangping frowned and said, but I have a question. How did you know that the medicine box was in the hands of the Duke An's adopted daughter? The swordsman explained, a female doctor from the Chen Kingdom told the Han family of the Yen Kingdom. The Han family then told Gong Sunyu. Our people happened to be nearby and heard it. Gong Sunyu was not interested in it, so it made things easier for us. Li Jiangping suddenly understood. I see. The swordsman smiled faintly and said, Chong Jing and the Duke An's adopted daughter's husband's family happened to have this relationship. It seems that it was heaven's will for the Sword Hut to obtain it. As he spoke, he looked at Li Jiangping and said, you have made a great contribution this time. The swordsman will definitely reward you well. Li Jiangping couldn't hide his smile. He lowered his head to pick up the medicine box on the ground. Then, something unbelievable happened. Where's the medicine box? He was shocked. The swordsman frowned. Didn't you put it under the stool just now? Yes. I put it here. Li Zhongping squatted down. Not only did he look under his stool, but he also looked in every corner of the carriage. But the medicine box was gone. Digression, little first aid kit. Hey, 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 I want the monthly ticket for the little first aid kit. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428266/1046622133. HTML Genius memorized this website's address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion's mobile reading website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 945. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated more quickly. Millions of novels can be read for free. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found on the internet. After an hour, Xiao Hang finished talking with Marquis Xian Ping Ho and the others and returned to the princess mansion with Shangguan Qing. Shangguan Qing yawned and waved at Xiao Hang. I'm so sleepy. I'm going to sleep. You should rest early too. Got it, Xiao Hang said to him. Shang Guanqing swaggered away with his new gun in his arms. Xiao Hang looked at his footsteps, which were exactly the same as his father's, and shook his head in amusement. When he returned to the room, he saw the small medicine box on the table. The corners of his lips curled up slightly. He walked over, raised his slender hand, and patted it lightly. At dawn, Gu Jiao woke up slowly. She felt that someone was looking at her, and she couldn't ignore it. When she opened her eyes, she saw little Jing Kong lying on the bed. Little Jing Kong's eyes were full of concentration. She didn't know how long he had been waiting here. The moment he found that she had woken up, his little face lit up. Jiao Jiao, you're awake? He said crisply. Gu Jiao smiled. Have you been here for a long time? A beautiful day began with admiring the little handsome boy. Although he wasn't a 3-year-old boy, he was very cute and handsome at the age of 6. Little Jing Kong shook his head. I just came. Oh, you've been here for an hour. Someone stepped in with a book and mercilessly exposed the little guy's lie. Little Jing Kong turned around and glared at his bad brother-in-law. He corrected him. Being with you, a day feels like a year. Being with Jiao Jiao, time flies like an arrow. He blurted out 2 idioms in one breath, and they even rhymed. He was indeed a child in the prodigy class of the Imperial College. Gu Jiao got up and went to wash up. Little Jing Kong followed behind her like a little tail. He peeked at her from time to time but didn't say anything. Gu Jiao put down the handkerchief in her hand and asked him, "What's wrong?" Little Jing Kong hesitated for a moment and decided to ask the truth. "Jiao Jiao, are you pregnant?" Gu Jiao glanced at Xiao Hang, who was tidying up the desk. She almost understood where the news about little Jing Kong came from. Pulling out a kiss and showing off the baby. As expected of you. Gu Jiao nodded and said, "Yes, we have a baby. A baby as cute as Jing Kong." "Is she as cute as me?" Her words were so pleasing to the ears that little Jing Kong became excited all of a sudden. He even started to look forward to the baby in Gu Jiao's belly. However, he thought of something and muttered hesitantly, But, Jiao Jiao has a baby. Will she still like me? Am I still the most handsome little man in Jiao Jiao's heart?" Gu Jiao smiled and pinched his little face. She bent down and looked at him at eye level. She said with a smile, "Of course she will. She will always like you. She will like you more every day than yesterday." Oh. Little Jing Kong was so shy that his cheeks turned red. He turned around and covered his hot cheeks. I'll go and get breakfast for Jiao Jiao first. After that, he ran out shyly. When he reached the corridor outside, he suddenly stopped and looked at Xiao Hang, who was tidying up the desk in front of the window. He puffed out his chest and said proudly, "Jiao Jiao likes me. I'm the most handsome." Humph. Little Jing Kong, who had turned the tables, left valiantly. Xiao Hang had a toothache. While little Jing Kong went to get breakfast, Xiao Hang and Gu Jiao talked about what happened last night. Gu Jiao was not too surprised by Li Jiangping's betrayal, but the point that aroused her suspicion was different from Xiao Hang's. She recalled, "When they gave me the nail, they wrapped it in a clean handkerchief. I've seen too many people with such injuries at the border. Most people would not keep the nail. They would throw it away immediately to prevent a second person from getting hurt. Even if they kept it, they would just put it aside casually. They wrapped it in a handkerchief as if they were afraid of destroying the blood and rust on it." Xiao Hang looked at her with admiration. "Jiao Jiao is so smart." Gu Jiao nodded seriously. "Yes, I'm very smart." Xiao Hang smiled. Gu Jiao thought of something and asked, "But, how did you know it would come back by itself?" "I don't know." "You don't know?" Xiao Hang was surprised. He thought she knew her small medicine box like the back of her hand. Gu Jiao shook her head. Xiao Hang helped her recall. "Do you remember that time you were crushed in a collapsed wine cellar?" Gu Jiao said, "I remember. You jumped down and looked for me." She was almost out of breath with the boulder on her chest. She thought she was going to die. In the darkness, he grabbed her hand. Xiao Hang said, "Later, we were all rescued. Your medicine box fell in the ruins. The scene was too dangerous at that time, so there was no way to dig it out. But when I went back, I found it in your small basket. I thought I was mistaken at that time. It was not until later when you told me that it was not an ordinary medicine box that I was sure I was not mistaken." When he said that, Gu Jiao also remembered something. It was during the archery competition in the Yen Kingdom. She remembered that she did not bring the small medicine box, but it was in her basket. She thought that it was Gu Xiaoshun and Gu Yen who put the small medicine box in her basket. In addition, when she first transmigrated here, the small medicine box was not with her. It only appeared when she urgently needed it. Gu Jiao looked at the small medicine box on the table bitterly. "If I had known it would be like this, I would not have taken so much effort to bring it with me. It was tiring to move it around." Gu Jiao pointed at the small medicine box. "Can't you be more obvious? Sometimes, if I didn't bring you, wouldn't I have found out if you appeared a few more times? Did you do it on purpose? Do I have to hug you every day to be happy?" A gust of morning wind blew, and the small medicine box was as quiet as a chicken. Xiao Hang sorted out what happened last night. There were 3 questions that he had no clue about. First, how did the sword hut know about the small medicine box? Second, why did the sword hut want the small medicine box? Third, what was the purpose of Li Jiangping lurking in the Dark Knight gang? If it was to deal with the Dark Knight gang, it did not make sense that he could not find a suitable opportunity to take action in 20 years. Gu Jiao had no clue about the first 2 points. As for the third point, she had her own opinion. The sword hut let Li Jiangping lurk in the Dark Knight gang for many years. Other than sending messages to the sword hut, the only big thing he did was to steal the small medicine box. Xiao Hang stared. "You mean that he lurked in the Dark Knight gang for the small medicine box? But he was already on the Dark Knight Island 20 years ago. At that time, Chong Jing was not born yet. You were not born either. Could they be like the state preceptor, who could predict the future?" Gu Jiao paused. What if they thought that the small medicine box was on the Dark Knight Island? Huh? Xiao Hang was slightly stunned. Gu Jiao said, "The purple grass came from the small medicine box. The earliest purple grass was planted by the first island master of the Dark Knight Island. Now I suspect that the small medicine box once appeared on the Dark Knight Island. Digression, little cuties, can I squat for a wave of monthly votes?" The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that cannot be found on the internet are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_89646606222. HTML Genius remembered the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 946. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel is more complete and updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. Xiao Heng wondered, but isn't the medicine box yours? Why did it appear on Dark Knight Island? Gu Jiao shook her head. I don't know. It was indeed a mystery. Even she had no clue. The two of them decided to ask Chong Jing. Did your box appear on our island? I don't know. In the garden of the Lord Protector's manor, Chong Jing looked confused. Then he asked the same question as Xiao Hang. Why did your box appear on our island? You haven't been to our island. If Gu Jiao knew the answer, she wouldn't have to ask Chong Jing. She said again, how much do you know about the first island owner? Chong Jing said helplessly, Dark Knight Island was originally a deserted island. After he came, he reorganized it into a sect, took in the nearby fishermen, and planted purple grass. That's all I know. If you want to know about the first island owner, you can only ask my father. Even Uncle Li doesn't know much about it. Was he a man or a woman? Xiao Heng asked suddenly. Chong Jing said subconsciously, a man. Xiao Heng said seriously, what do you mean by a man? Are you sure or not? Chong Jing thought for a while and said, no one told me. But aren't all island owners men? Is there a woman who can be an island owner? If there is, can my sister also be an island owner? Then I don't have to inherit the Dark Knight sect. The two of them exchanged a look. Chong Jing's state of mind was completely different from theirs. No wonder he got along well with Jing Kong. Xiao Hang said to Gu Jiao, I will investigate them. Don't worry. Okay. Gu Jiao was not a person who would give up eating for fear of choking. Although the people of the Sword Hut had sneaked into the capital, they still lived their lives as usual. After breakfast, Gu Jiao took little Jing Kong to the carriage for an outing. Little Jing Kong swung his legs and said in a low voice, Jiao Jiao, let's not go for an outing, shall we? Why? Gu Jiao asked. Little Jing Kong looked down and said, I'm a little tired today. Gu Jiao smiled and said, you're not tired. Little Jing Kong opened his mouth and was about to say something when Gu Jiao added, I'm not that weak. It was just a pregnancy. Other than the difference in appetite and sleep, there was no other difference. During this period of time, she had been busy with her own affairs and neglected little Jing Kong. He was growing up day by day. She did not want to look back one day and realize that he had become independent and that she had missed out on his growth. She looked at little Jing Kong and said seriously, I want to go for an outing with you. Are you willing to go with me? Little Jing Kong looked into Gu Jiao's eyes and could feel that Gu Jiao really wanted to go. He immediately became energetic and nodded vigorously. Yes, yes. I love going out with Jiao Jiao the most. Gu Jiao was infected by his childlike innocence and imagined how the baby would look like. She thought that she would really like it if it was the same as Jing Kong. She touched his little head and said, Let's go to the Duke's public house for dinner tonight. Tomorrow, we'll go to Bai Shui Alley to play cards with Grandaunt. Little Jing Kong raised his hands and feet in agreement. We'll listen to Jiao Jiao. Bai Shui Alley. Gu Yen stood at the door and looked around. Gu Xiaobao also looked around. What are you doing? He asked Gu Xiaobao. What are you doing? Gu Xiaobao asked him back. Gu Yan was annoyed and amused by Gu Xiaobao's adult tone. I'm waiting for someone. Gu Xiaobao said, I'm also waiting for someone. Gu Yan said, I'm waiting for Xiaoshun. I'm also waiting. I'm not waiting for Xiaoshun. Gu Xiaobao waved his little hand and learned from Gu Yan to call Xiaoshun. You have to call Xiaoshun brother. Also, sister won't be coming today. Gu Yan hit the nail on the head. Gu Xiaobao raised his head and looked at his brother unhappily. She's coming. Not long after, Gu Xiaoshun came back. Gu Yan's eyes lit up. Is it done? Gu Xiaoshun said sneakily, It's done. Let me see. Gu Yan stretched out his hand. Gu Xiaobao looked at his two brothers in confusion. He didn't understand what they were doing. Gu Xiaoshun sneakily stuffed the thing into Gu Yan's arms. There are so many on the streets. You had to draw it yourself. I don't know if it's to your liking. There's no silver left. I found the most experienced master craftsman. Gu Yan said, Okay, you look after Xiaobao. I'm going out. Okay. Gu Xiaoshun carried the little boy into the house. Gu Yan took a carriage to the military camp. Gu Chongqing was observing the soldiers' drill. Suddenly, a guard walked over quickly and whispered something in his ear. He raised his finger and said, Got it. Then, he said to the generals who were watching the drill together, Sorry, I have to leave. The generals looked at him strangely and exchanged glances. This was a big drill that happened once every 3 months. Did something big happen? Why did General Gu leave midway? He left in a hurry. Gu Chongqing quickly walked out of the military camp and saw a thin figure pacing back and forth beside a carriage. Ayan. He called out to him. Gu Yan heard and turned around in a daze. Why did you come out? Gu Chongqing smiled. Someone told me that you came to look for me. I didn't. Gu Yan subconsciously retorted. It was true that he came to look for him, but he didn't mention it to anyone. He knew that the military camp was busy and didn't want to disturb him. He wanted to wait for him to finish before coming out. Gu Chongqing didn't tell Gu Yan that it was his personal guard who recognized him. Gu Chongqing was a cold-faced Yama in the military camp. However, in front of Gu Yan and Gu Jiao, he was always a doting brother. He saw that Gu Yan's cheeks were red from the sun and quickly brought him to his tent. Bring some ice. He ordered the guard. The guard was shocked. Didn't you say that you didn't use these things? Yes. The guard glanced at the pampered young master and understood. He went to bring over 2 large basins of ice cubes and placed them on both sides of Gu Yan. Gu Yan felt a chill run down her spine. You can leave. Gu Chongqing ordered. Yes. The guard retreated. Gu Chongqing picked up the fan on the table and gently fanned Gu Yan. Gu Yan raised his small neck comfortably and turned 180 degrees. He wanted to fan here. He also wanted to fan here. Gu Chongqing smiled and fanned harder. Don't you have to go to class today? Today is a holiday. Gu Yan said. Gu Chongqing asked, Why did you come to the military camp to look for me? Gu Yan hesitated for a moment. He took out a mask and handed it to Gu Chongqing. What is this? Gu Chongqing took the mask with the hand that didn't need to fan. He looked at it carefully and didn't forget to continue fanning Gu Yan. Gu Yan said, Aren't you engaged? This is an engagement gift for you. It was a silver half-face mask. It was very light and exquisite. The design was also new. Gu Chongqing had never seen it on the market. He looked at Gu Yan. Did you specially find someone to make it? Yes. Gu Yan pulled his small ears and admitted with some embarrassment. It seemed that he had put a lot of thought into it. Gu Chongqing's heart softened. Why did you think of giving me a mask? Gu Yan pursed his lips. Aren't you an expert in the underground martial arts arena? I heard that the people there all wear masks. If you don't like it, I like it very much. Gu Chongqing smiled and said to him, I will wear it when I go to the underground martial arts arena in the future. I will also bring you. This way, you will be able to recognize who I am at a glance. Gu Yan's eyes moved. He did his best to suppress the joy in his heart and nodded coldly. If you insist on bringing me, then that's fine too. Gu Chongqing smiled warmly, his eyes full of pampering. Marquis Xian Ping's estate. Xiao Hang went to court today and accepted the title of junior assistant. From today onwards, he would be the first junior assistant under the emperor's rule. When he left court, he was surrounded by civil and military officials. Everyone congratulated him one after another. All of this happened suddenly, but when he thought about it carefully, he felt that it was logical. At the age of 13, he became the young chancellor of the directorate. If it wasn't for the unforeseen event, he would have already become Zhao Country's junior assistant. He lost some of his noble youthfulness and gained some steadiness and calmness. If it was said that the young chancellor relied somewhat on his birth, then the 3 Yuan imperial examinations, the Zhuiyuan parade, and the junior assistant were all the results of his own hard work. Congratulations to Grand Secretary Yuan. You have a successor. There were also officials congratulating Grand Secretary Yuan. Grand Secretary Yuan stroked his beard with a smile. Another official said, I think Grand Secretary Yuan is blessed with double happiness. You have a proud student, as well as a son-in-law and a grandson-in-law. Grand Secretary Yuan's smile deepened. That's right. The 2 matters that had been troubling him for a long time had been settled. Next was Bao Lin and Gu Chongqing's wedding. He had to ask the imperial astronomer if they had calculated the auspicious day. Xiao Heng finally escaped from the encirclement of the officials with great difficulty. His entire body was covered in sweat. He returned to the Princess Manor. As soon as he entered the room, he saw that Shangguan Qing was also there. He laid out a dozen masks on the table and asked Gu Jiao, who was sitting to the side, Take a look. Which one is the mask you dreamed of? Did you find someone to make all of these? Gu Jiao asked. Shangguan Qing said, That's right. I gave your blueprints to the master of the blacksmith shop. Everyone's masks are different and have subtle differences. Take a look and see which one is the most similar. Yes, this one. Gu Jiao picked up the 3rd bronze mask with fangs on her right-hand side. This matter had already passed, but when he heard that the people of the Sword Hut had infiltrated the capital again, Shangguan Qing began to pay attention to it again. Aren't you going back to the Yen kingdom? Gu Jiao asked him. Shangguan Qing said calmly, I can go back a few days later. He wanted to kill all the bastards of the Sword Hut first. He took out the mask Gu Jiao had picked out and glanced at his stinky younger brother. He hurriedly said, You came at the right time. Draw this mask again and make it look more similar. This way, it'll be easier to make a copy and distribute it. Have the gods find it. Okay. Xiao Heng agreed. Gu Jiao had seen it a long time ago. She wore the dark red official robes of the junior secretary, which made her devastatingly beautiful and elegant like jade. The young couple stared at each other. Even the air was sweet. Shangguan Qing wanted to roll his eyes again. Am I here to eat dog food? That's enough. Xiao Heng entered the room and sat down. He picked up a brush and paper and began to draw the mask. He did not just draw a single mask. He also combined the attire of the disciples of the Sword Hut with the Xianyue sword. My stinky younger brother is good. Shangguan Qing looked at him in amazement and said, This is much easier to recognize. Speaking of which, how did you get the box back? The 2 looked at each other. Xiao Heng said calmly, It's a secret. Teske. Shangguan Qing snorted. If you don't want to say it, then forget it. However, if they didn't succeed the first time, they will definitely come a second time. Guess, will they come tonight? Without waiting for the 2 to speak, Yuya suddenly walked in hurriedly. Miss. Son-in-law. Steward Zheng is here. Steward Zheng was Dukan's confidant. His visit must have something to do with Dukan. The 2 hurriedly let Yuya bring Steward Zheng in. Steward Zhang stumbled into the room. When he came in front of Gu Jiao, his legs gave way. Gu Jiao held his arm in time. Steward Zheng, what happened? Let's talk nicely. Steward Zheng broke down and cried, Duke went out to buy a shop for Miss today, but someone came out of nowhere, and took Duke away. Duke always brought his men of sacrifice with him when he went out. Their martial arts were not bad. To be able to take Duke away from them, it was obvious that the other party was not an ordinary master. The three of them exchanged glances and had the same guess in their hearts. The Sword Hut. Gu Jiao asked, did they leave any messages? Steward Zheng cried and shook his head. No, there was nothing. They left after taking him away. Gu Jiao asked seriously, where did it happen? Steward Zheng choked with sobs. The East River of Lake Li. I saw them go in the direction of the West City Gate. Xiao Heng's eyes turned cold. The West City Gate. Do they want to take Duke back to the Sword Hut? Yes, Zhao Jiao was Duke An's adopted daughter. With Duke in their hands, were they afraid that they could not control Zhao Jiao? They wanted to lure Zhao Jiao to the Sword Hut because they realized that to take away the medicine chest, they had to take away Zhao Jiao. I'm going out. Wait for me at home. Before Xiao Hang could finish speaking, Gu Jiao had already tied up her long hair without hesitation. At dusk, a seemingly inconspicuous carriage drove out of the North City Gate of the capital. The coachman drove the carriage vigilantly, followed by 4 attendants on horses. Inside the carriage, 2 men sat facing each other. One of them was the kidnapped Duke N, and the other was the swordsman who had saved Li Jiangping last night. The swordsman wore a silver mask that distorted his original appearance. However, from the skin on his neck and hands, one could tell that he was not old. When he spoke, he confirmed Duke An's guess. At most, he was around 30. Duke, we have no ill intentions. Please calm down. He smiled and said to Duke and was very calm from beginning to end. He did not make any unnecessary calls for help. Hearing the other's words, he said calmly, Where do you plan on taking me? The swordsman smiled coldly. You don't need to know. Just cooperate obediently. Otherwise, I don't mind making you suffer. Duke was not frightened by his threat. He said calmly, You are from the Sword Hut. A glimmer of shock flashed through the swordsman's eyes. Clearly, he had not expected the other to guess so easily. However, he quickly smiled again. As expected of Duke N. You are extremely quick-witted. This was an admission. It seemed that his situation was not good. After all, only the dead could keep secrets. They did not plan on letting him leave alive. It did not matter if he died. He was only worried that he would implicate Zhao Jiao. The swordsman smiled coldly. Why aren't you speaking? Are you thinking of how to escape? Don't waste your time. You can't escape. Don't count on anyone coming to save you. They all think that we are going to the Western City Gate. By the time they react, we will have already boarded the ship. Dukan looked at him calmly. Who are you trying to threaten by capturing me? The Dukan estate, the Shenyuan family, or the Yen royal family? None of them. The swordsman smiled. We only hope to invite your adopted daughter to the island as a guest. As expected, they had come for Zhao Jiao. Murderous intent flashed through Dukan's eyes. The swordsman saw the murderous intent and said mockingly, Oh, you want to kill me? What can a cripple like you do? I can crush you to death with my fingers. However, don't worry. Your body is so weak. I am afraid that I will not control my strength. If I kill you, I will not be able to invite your adopted daughter. Dukan asked calmly, Zhao Jiao has no enmity with you. Why do you want to attack her? The swordsman laughed. There is enmity. After all, she killed so many disciples of the Sword Hut at the border. Of course, they were all outer sect disciples. The enmity is not great. As long as she is willing to obediently hand over what we want, we may consider letting her go. Letting Zhao Jiao go was fake. What they wanted from Zhao Jiao was real. And Guogong said, What do you want? I'll buy it for you. Do you want her armor or her weapon? The swordsman said meaningfully, It is much more precious than those things. You would not understand even if I told you. After speaking, he lifted the curtain and asked the driver, How long until we reach the ferry? 6 hours, the driver said. Is there no shortcut? The swordsman asked. There is. Then let's go. The shortcut will take us through a forest. We may encounter wild beasts. Are we afraid of wild beasts? Take the shortcut. Since the swordsman had spoken, the driver could only follow. Fortunately, their luck was good. They did not encounter any danger in the forest. 2 hours later, they were on the official road of Jadewater Town. The ferry is ahead. Sir, are you sure there is a boat? The driver asked. This is not something you should worry about. The swordsman was not as patient with the driver as he was with Duke and, yes. The driver angrily closed his mouth. Of course there was a boat. Everything had been prepared. They would enter the Yen Kingdom by water and return to the sword hut from the Yen Kingdom. He had left a steward behind to inform the girl. As long as the girl was not an idiot, she would be able to guess that they had to go to the sword hut to find someone. Girl, see you at the sword hut. The carriage stopped at the ferry. A large boat with a black awning slowly approached. Li Jiangping stood on the boat and waved in their direction. The swordsman saw through the window. He nodded, lowered the curtain, and jumped off the carriage. Just as he was about to move Duke An and his wheelchair down, an eagle's cry suddenly came from the silent roof. The entire night sky seemed to have been torn open by this eagle's cry, and a majestic murderous aura surged out like a tsunami. The swordsman and Li Jiangping's hearts shook. An ominous premonition swept through their hearts. The sound of heavy horse hooves approached. The two turned their heads to look. In the dark night, Gu Jiao rode over with a red tasseled spear on her back. She carried a killing intent that could trample mountains and rivers. Her red battle clothes were blown by the night wind. Her black armor reflected a cold light under the moonlight. The swordsman was shocked. Li Jiangping had seen Gu Jiao before. But the Gu Jiao in the manor and the person on the horse emitting the fury of a killing god were like two different people. He did not dare to recognize her for a moment. Get on the boat. He finally came to his senses. Gu Jiao rode on the Black Wind King's strong horse. She coldly pulled back the bow in her hand and shot him into the water with an arrow. Digression, Shenyuan Cheng. I went to the battlefield when I was 13. Little Jing Kong. I went to the battlefield when I was 10. Little Bao Bao. I'm amazing. I started fighting when I was in Mama's stomach. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster and more complete. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online are all available here. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642-826/1046432006. HTML Genius memorized the website address in 1 second. www.zhbqg.com Biku Pavilion Mobile Reading Website. zhbqg.com. Chapter 947. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated at a faster rate. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with content that can't be found online can be found here. Li Jiangping was an elder of the Dark Knight Island, but he was sent flying by an arrow. What kind of terrifying strength was that? The swordsman frowned and said to his 4 subordinates, "Go." The 4 of them drew their swords and flew towards Gu Jiao with their lightness skills. Gu Jiao fired 3 arrows at the same time. Their speed was unbelievably fast, and they tore through the air with unstoppable force, directly hitting the hearts of the 3 swordsmen. The 3 of them didn't even have time to fight back before they screamed and fell. The last swordsman saw that his 3 companions were killed and couldn't help but stop. In this short moment, the Black Wind King had already arrived under him. Gu Jiao pulled out the red tasseled spear from her back and nailed him to a tree not far away. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. His head tilted and he stopped breathing. The swordsman's eyebrows twitched. He couldn't believe it. In a flash, an image appeared in his mind. I know who you are. You are Du Can's adopted daughter. The commander of the Black Wind Cavalry. Should I call you Xiao Lulang or young madam? To be honest, when he heard that the commander of the Black Wind Cavalry who killed Gong Sun Yu was a woman, he was more shocked than if he had seen a ghost. Other than the Master of Shadows, he didn't expect there to be a second woman who was so powerful. That's right, the first Master of Shadows was a woman. Perhaps even the members of the Shadow Division didn't know this secret, but the head of the Sword Hut had interacted with her before. The Black Wind King stopped 10 steps away from him. If Dukan wasn't still in the carriage, it would have rammed into him. Gu Jiao held the reins with one hand and pointed the red tasseled spear at him coldly. Let go of my adopted father and I'll leave you with a whole corpse. The swordsman laughed mockingly. Only a whole corpse? Huh? Girl. You sure talk big. Gu Jiao sat on the back of the horse and looked down at him. It seems that you don't want to choose. That's good. The swordsman sneered. Do you really think you can kill me? Although I admit that your martial arts are stronger than I imagined, you are still no match for me. Noisy. Gu Jiao finished speaking word by word and jumped down from the horse's back. Her long spear was like a rainbow as she fiercely stabbed towards the swordsman. The assassin drew his sword to block, but he had underestimated Gu Jiao's strength and the sharpness of the red tasseled spear. His sword was cut in half, and his arm went numb. He took a few steps back and looked at Gu Jiao in disbelief. To be honest, Gu Jiao was also very surprised. Ever since the battle, she had not properly dueled with anyone. The swordsman was her first real opponent, although his strength was not enough. The swordsman threw away the long sword in his hand and took out another sword from under the carriage. But as expected, it was still cut in half by Gu Jiao's spear. He finally realized that he had kicked an iron board and planned to retreat. Gu Jiao did not give him the chance as her spear cut off his head. He watched as his body went further and further away. The world spun and dust entered his mouth and nose. Then, there was no more then. Adoptive father. Gu Jiao quickly opened the curtain of the carriage. Who would have thought that she would find nothing? There was not a single person inside. She looked carefully and found that when she was dueling with the swordsman, another expert had taken advantage of the situation and taken away An Guagong from the back door of the carriage. She looked at the sky. Little Nine. Little Nine flapped its wings and chased after her. Gu Jiao also got on the horse and chased after Little Nine's eagle cry, running into the night. There was no horse faster than the Black Wind King in the world. When Xiao Hang and Shang Guanqing arrived at the ferry, there was no trace of Gu Jiao and An Guagong. There were only a few corpses on the ground, and one of them was a headless corpse. Shang Guanqing frowned. After chasing them for so long, did we still lose them? Xiao Heng's eyes swept over and said cautiously, There is someone in the water. The accompanying secret guard went into the water and pulled Li Jiangping out of the water. Li Jiangping still had one breath left. Who is this guy? Shang Guanqing asked. When Li Jiangping came to the house, he happened to take Jing Kong out and did not see Li Jiangping face to face. Xiao Heng said, Li Jiangping. He is the traitor of the Dark Knight sect? Shang Guanqing squatted down and checked the arrow in his chest. It is Zhao Jiao's arrow. Xiao Heng walked forward and looked coldly at the dying Li Jiangping. Where did Zhao Jiao and An Guagong go? Li Jiangping did not want to say at first, but Xiao Heng had someone cut off his fingers. Shang Guanqing clicked his tongue. No way, my little brother is so cruel? Xiao Heng said expressionlessly, If you don't say it, I will cut off your ears, nose, and mouth and feed them to you. Shang Guanqing thought, Damn. Today was the day that my little brother refreshed his knowledge. Li Zhongping could not withstand the torture in the end. Go east, 3 miles. There is a Tsongjian villa. The people of the sword hut should be there. The Tsongjian villa was a small sect near Zhaodu. The sword hut needed a place to hide when they came here, so they robbed the Tsongjian villa. According to the plan, Li Zhongping and the swordsman would bring in Guagong to board the boat first, and the people of the sword hut would follow behind to ensure that no masters could catch up to them. But now that something like this had happened, the plan was disrupted. He did not know if the people of the sword hut would choose to board the boat from another ferry. How many people are there in total? Xiaoheng asked. Li Zhongping said weakly, sect leader. 4 venerables. 8 protectors. And some disciples. I don't know the exact number. Xiaoheng paused and said, how is their strength compared to Sky Splitter? Li Zhongping recalled, Sky Splitter. I have never seen it before. Xiaoheng thought for a moment and changed the name, then, Anhun. Li Zhongping said, Anhun is the direct disciple of the sect leader. His strength is comparable to a protector. 8 protectors and 8 Anhun. Xiaoheng could not help but clench his fists. The situation was not optimistic. What about the venerables? He asked again. Li Zhongping said, the strength of the venerables is above that of the protectors. Shangguan Qing's expression also became solemn. With so many experts, if Zhao Jiao really broke through, it would be disastrous. Xiaoheng quickened his pace. Why did you capture Dukan? Li Zhongping said, For that box. Xiaoheng said, what treasure is in that box? Why does the sword hut want to obtain it? Li Zhongping exhaled more than he inhaled. I don't know. It's the sect leader's orders. Shangguan Qing leaned closer to his stinky brother and asked, is what he said true? It should be true. Xiaoheng said with a serious gaze, young Master Mingyue is the son of the sect leader. He knows nothing about the small medicine box. It can be seen that this matter is indeed a secret. Very few people know about it. Shangguan Qing glanced at Li Zhongping. Then what about him? Kill him or, Xiaoheng said calmly, leave him for Chongjing. Shangguan Qing looked at Li Zhongping's finger that had been cut off at the base and was bleeding profusely. He felt that his finger was in pain. Although this scene was very cruel, what should he do when he was a little taken aback by his stinky brother's handsomeness? The person who captured Dukan was an expert with top-notch Qinggong. Coupled with his familiarity with the terrain, almost no one could catch up to him. However, the one chasing after him was the overlord of the sky, Hai Dongqing. Even if he grew a pair of wings, he could not fly away from him. He wanted to shoot down the eagle that kept circling above him, but the eagle flew too high. He did not have a bow and arrow. With just his sword Qi, he could not even reach the other party's feathers. Although the sword-hidden villa was a small sect, its geographical location was very particular. It was located in a place with beautiful mountains and limpid waters. The mountain gate was at the foot of the mountain. It was guarded by the disciples of the sect. Now, it was the disciples of the sword hut. One had to walk up more than 100 steps to reach the sect halfway up the mountain. Gu Jiao chased all the way to the foot of the mountain. Perhaps because the expert had informed them, the 2 disciples guarding the gate were already prepared. They pulled out their swords one after another and looked at Gu Jiao warily. Who are you? One of them asked. Gu Jiao did not waste time talking to them. She directly charged over. There were steps up. The Black Wind King could not walk anymore. Gu Jiao told him to wait in the forest. She grabbed her red tasseled spear and charged all the way to the villa. Although it was easy for her to kill them, it was not because they were weak. In fact, each of them had the strength of a celestial wolf. It was because her strength had increased a lot. As for how much, she could not determine. She had not met an opponent who could force her to use her full strength. How dare you? How dare you hurt a disciple of the sword hut? Just as Gu Jiao was about to enter the villa, a man in grey clothes wearing a silver mask stepped into the night and flew towards Gu Jiao with a sword in his hand. This person's aura was clearly stronger than the disciples from before. He was a true expert. His sword landed on Gu Jiao's red tasseled spear. The weapons met and sparks flew. Following the crisp sound of the collision, Gu Jiao could feel that her arm was violently shaken. Gu Jiao was forced to take a few steps back. She looked at the person who came. From his voice, it was a middle-aged man. However, he looked very young and strong. The muscles on his arms and chest were almost bursting out from under his clothes. This person was a tempered body expert. Like Shi Yi, he had a very strong inner strength. Gu Jiao could feel a murderous aura from him that was comparable to An Hun's. If it was a year ago, she would not be An Hun's opponent. But now she had the strength to fight him. Gu Jiao gripped her red tasseled spear tightly and began to look for the opponent's weakness. The man was slightly stunned. He did not expect that under such circumstances, the opponent did not have the slightest intention of retreating. "Who are you?" This young man caught his attention. Gu Jiao said, "Who am I? Why don't you go to hell and ask your fellow disciples?" "You are a girl?" The man was shocked again. Then he looked at Gu Jiao's beautiful face under the moonlight and murmured, "No wonder." He was wondering how a man could be so good-looking. Gu Jiao looked around. There was more than one ferry nearby. If they were delayed, An Guogong might be taken away by them through another door. She did not waste any more words with him. She raised her red tasseled spear and charged at him. On the other side, Xiao Hang and Shangguan Qing's group were surrounded by the disciples of the Sword Hut. The secret guards protected the two young masters in the middle. Shangguan Qing held a gun and stood back to back with Xiao Hang, waiting for an opportunity to move. He frowned and said, "How many people did the Sword Hut send this time? How did they get into the Zhao kingdom?" Xiao Hang looked warily at the disciples of the Sword Hut who surrounded them. A caravan, an underground martial arts arena, or a marriage proposal team from the Dark Knight clan. Anything is possible. Shangguan Qing gritted his teeth and said, "That Li really deserves to die." Xiao Heng said, "He is only a pawn. The real mastermind is the head of the Sword Hut. Kill them." The leader of the disciples of the Sword Hut gave the order. The rest of the people rushed toward the secret guards of the Marquis Shuamping's manor. The two sides quickly fought. If it was a one-on-one fight, the secret guards were not a match for the disciples of the Sword Hut. However, the number of secret guards was 3 times that of the disciples of the Sword Hut. For a moment, they were able to hold them back. Xiao Hang grabbed Shangguan Qing's wrist and ran into the forest at the side in the chaos. The sounds of fighting behind them gradually disappeared. Shangguan Qing let out a sigh of relief and asked, "Where do we go next?" Xiao Hang said, "Li Jiangping said to go east. East is right in front." Shangguan Qing hurriedly said, "Oh, then let's go quickly." Unexpectedly, after a few steps, there was a cracking sound under Shangguan Qing's feet. A sharp pain came from his ankle. He tripped on the spot and fell forward onto the ground. Xiao Heng stopped in time. He turned around and walked toward him. He squatted down and asked, "What's wrong?" Shangguan Qing supported himself on the ground and sat up. He did not forget to pick up the gun that had fallen to the side. He broke out in a cold sweat and said, "My leg seems to have been caught by something." Xiao Heng lifted his hem and took a look. He frowned and said, "It's a beast trap. It might have been put there by the villagers nearby. Bear with it. I'll pry it open. Give me the gun." Shangguan Qing did not understand and asked, "Why do you need the gun?" Xiao Hang looked at the beast trap that was embedded in Shangguan Qing's flesh and said, "Only the gun is hard enough." Shangguan Qing hugged the gun tightly and said, It will be broken." Xiao Hang looked up at him and said, "If the gun is broken, I'll make a new one for you. If your leg is broken, I can't do anything." Shangguan Qing painfully handed the gun to his brother and said reluctantly, "Then be gentle, not to me but to her. She is my wife. Don't hurt my wife." Xiao Hang was speechless. In the villa, Gu Jiao ended the battle with that man. That man was so talkative. She had already learned his identity from him. He was the seventh guardian of the sword hut. The seventh guardian's mask was broken and he fell to the ground heavily. He covered his chest and kept vomiting blood. He looked at Gu Jiao, panting. His eyes were full of disbelief. Didn't his fellow disciples say that this girl couldn't even defeat An Hun? She couldn't defeat him? This was King beatdown. His skills were on par with An Hun's, but during the fight just now, other than his surprise attack which forced the girl to retreat, he had not been able to win against her since she took the initiative to attack him. The first 10 moves were a draw. From the 11th move onwards, he had no power to fight back. Why was it like this? Gu Jiao stepped on his chest. She was like the master of all things looking down at the ants on the ground. Where is Duken? The seventh guardian laughed coldly. He raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. Do you think? I will tell you. I'm warning you. This is the territory of the sword hut. If you dare to act recklessly. His gaze was very determined. He could not reveal any information to Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao did not want to waste time on him. She withdrew her foot. Under the gaze of the disciples of the sword hut who did not dare to go forward, she walked into the villa with a blood-dripping red tasseled spear like a shura. The seventh guardian struggled to stand up. He looked coldly at Gu Jiao's back. He grabbed with his 5 fingers and gathered enough inner energy. He was about to hit Gu Jiao's back fiercely. Gu Jiao happened to pass by the corpse of a disciple of the sword hut. She stomped her foot fiercely and the long sword on the ground flipped up. She hit the hilt of the sword with her palm. The long sword flew towards the seventh guardian behind her. The seventh guardian did not even have time to react before his chest was pierced fiercely. During the entire process, Gu Jiao did not turn her head. Her red tasseled spear touched the ground. Following her footsteps, the cold glinting tip of the spear drew a slow and ear-piercing sound on the limestone floor. Occasionally, a string of sparks would fly. There were disciples charging towards her. Every single one of them fell under her red tasseled spear. The disciples of the sword hut were frightened by her killing. A disciple trembled and said, "Quick, quick, go and report to the headmaster." The sword hut had 2 peaks. The headmaster, the various venerables, and the guardians were at the rear peak. Today, it was the 7th guardian's turn to guard the vanguard. Gu Jiao found Duke N, who had been tied up by 4 disciples at the back door of the vanguard. As she expected, they were planning to take him down the mountain from the side door and head to another ferry. Gu Jiao dealt with the 4 people as quickly as possible. She cut the ropes on Duke N's body and knelt by his side. She helped the fainted Duke N up. Adoptive father, adoptive father. She placed Duke N on her shoulder and checked his pulse. Duke N slowly regained consciousness. He weakly opened his heavy eyelids and said to Gu Jiao, "Jiao Jiao. Quick, go. Don't worry about me. Hurry. Go down the mountain," Gu Jiao said. "Let's go together." Duke N clenched his teeth and used the last of his strength to say, "I have medicine on me. It'll harm you." Gu Jiao had already noticed. She helped him untie the ropes on his feet. "This bit of knockout drug is useless against me. I'll carry you down the mountain." As she spoke, she turned around and carried Duke N on her back. However, the moment she turned around, a ghostly figure appeared out of nowhere and slapped her chest, sending her and Duke N flying at the same time. "Jiao Jiao." Duke N didn't know where he got the strength. He grabbed Gu Jiao and spun in the air. He let himself fall to the ground and held Gu Jiao tightly in his arms. He was hit so hard that he spat out a mouthful of blood. The 2 of them hit a rock on the side. He used his hands to protect Gu Jiao's head. Gu Jiao's head was saved, but the huge impact still knocked Gu Jiao out of his arms. There was a cliff in front of them. He rushed over to grab Gu Jiao, but it was too late. Gu Jiao was thrown out. "Jiao Jiao!" Duke N screamed. "Save her! Save her! She is the person you are looking for." The second guardian of the sword hut who had sneakily attacked Gu Jiao was shocked. What? She is that? Oh no. She can't die. The second guardian rushed to the edge of the cliff, but he was one step too late. He reached out to grab her, but he couldn't even catch a corner of her clothes. He swayed a few times. The sand and stones under his feet fell off the cliff, as if he was going to slide down with her. He stared at the pitch-black cliff in shock, completely dumbfounded. Dukan climbed to the cliff. Tears came out of his eyes. Jiao Jiao. In the forest, Shangguan Qing, who was being supported by Xiao Hang, was limping forward. He frowned. What's that sound? Xiao Hang gathered his qi and looked up. It seems to be Dukan. Jiao Jiao is in trouble. The strong wind on the cliff was blowing. It was so strong that people couldn't open their eyes. The second guardian raised his hand to block his eyes. He took a few steps back. At this moment, a light blue figure jumped from behind. He jumped off the cliff without hesitation. His robe was facing the strong wind. A breathtaking lotus bloomed in the dark night valley. Gu Jiao kept falling. The strong wind was cutting her face like a knife. When the plane crashed, it seemed to be the same feeling. So this time, was she going to die too? Her thoughts were blown away by the wind. While she was in a daze, a strong hand grabbed her wrist. She felt that she was caught by something. When she opened her eyes, she saw a familiar young and handsome face. Gu Chongqing? Gu Chongqing grabbed her with one hand and held the cliff with the other. However, it was not so easy to stabilize them when they fell at the same time. His fingertips were badly mutilated on the cliff. His bones could be seen. Finally, he held on. Gu Jiao was hanging under him. There was some warm liquid dripping on her forehead. She touched the liquid on her forehead and twisted her fingertips. Gu Chongqing, you're hurt. His hand hurt so much that it didn't feel like his own. Gu Chongqing was soaked in cold sweat, but he said in a normal tone, I'm fine. Do you still have strength? I'll pull you up first. Hold on to me and I'll bring you up. In this place, one could fall if they were not careful. They were good at fighting, but they were humans, not gods. If they fell, they would lose their lives. Gu Chongqing carefully pulled Gu Jiao up. He let Gu Jiao climb onto his back and wrapped the whip around each other. Gu Jiao said, I can do it myself. Gu Chongqing said, don't move. He saw it just now. She was hit. Even if the armor blocked most of the power, it still affected her. Gu Jiao hugged his neck and said, but you're hurt. Gu Chongqing said softly, that's why I have to carry you. I don't have the will to live. Gu Jiao didn't insist. Thinking of something, Gu Jiao said, I have a match. I can light the way for you. No need. He looked at his bloody left hand and said calmly, I can see the way. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated faster. Millions of novels are free to read. There are all kinds of novels that can't be found online. https://www.zhbqg.com/89642_896428246/1046222406. HTML Genius memorized this site's address. www.zhbqg.com Gu mobile reading website, zhbqg.com. Chapter 948. The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more exciting content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. The novel will be updated even faster. Millions of novels will be read for free. Novels that can't be found online will be available here. Gu Chongqing carried Gu Jiao on his back as he climbed up the cliff with great difficulty. The astral winds from the bottom of the cliff howled, almost blowing them away. Under these extreme conditions, he could not use his internal strength at all. He could only rely on his brute force as he slowly climbed up with his little sister. Very quickly, his right hand became a bloody mess. His flesh was left on the cliff, and the bloody handprints were a shocking sight in the dark night. The place where they fell was very deep, and they did not know how long it would take to climb up. The wind here was strong and the temperature was low. Gu Chongqing was worried that she would freeze, so he said to her, "Jiao Jiao, don't sleep yet." Gu Jiao replied in a daze. Gu Chongqing asked, "Are you sleepy?" Gu Jiao blinked her sleepy eyes. A bit." Her sudden sleepiness was not like her usual strength. Gu Chongqing asked in a worried voice, "Are you seriously injured?" "I'm not." Gu Jiao shook her head. She had been feeling sleepy recently, and it was probably related to her pregnancy. Gu Chongqing's hand grabbed onto a protruding rock. "Then you should sleep. I'll wake you up when we reach the top." He slowly poured his internal strength into her to maintain her body temperature. A person's potential was truly endless. At first, he couldn't even use his internal strength, but didn't he still do it now? However, he could only use a little bit since he still needed to rely on brute force to climb. Gu Jiao's body felt a comfortable warmth. Her head sank down as she leaned against his shoulder. She said in a daze, "Gu Chongqing, I have good news to tell you." Gu Chongqing heard her sleepy voice and his lips curled as he asked, "What good news?" Gu Jiao closed her eyes and said half awake, "I have a baby in my stomach." Gu Chongqing was so shocked that his tiger-like body trembled. He was at a loss of what to do and almost lost his grip. Even the rocks under his feet were kicked off by him. His eyes widened to the size of a copper bell after he grasped it firmly. What did she just say? She had a baby? He is going to be an uncle? Halfway up the mountain, several great protectors had arrived. Dukan lay weakly on the edge of the cliff, staring at the bottomless abyss. The 7 protectors stood slightly behind him, occasionally glancing down. The 3rd protector walked over. He looked at the corpse on the ground and asked the 2nd protector, "Second protector, what happened? Who hurt a disciple of the sword hut? And this person, wasn't he going to be sent to the ferry? Why are you still here? By the way, where's old 7? The 2nd protector said with a grave expression, "I just came from the front. Old 7 is already dead." What? The 3 protectors were shocked. The rest of the people were also shocked. There was no other outsider here. Everyone's gaze fell on Dukan, who was filled with grief and indignation. However, Dukan was a cripple, so they quickly dismissed the idea. The great protector asked, "Second protector, what happened?" The 2nd protector took 2 steps back and put his hands behind his back. He sighed and said, "It's Dukan's adopted daughter." The 3rd protector was excited. He strode forward and grabbed the 2nd protector's arm. "She's here? Did she kill all these people? Where is she?" The 2nd protector looked at the cliff beside him and sighed again. "She fell down." Everyone was speechless. The 2nd protector explained, "I didn't know who she was at that time. I thought she was Dukan's secret guard, so I hit her." The angle of the hit was calculated to be very tricky. It could have taken Gu Jiao's life on the spot. Dukan had risked his life to protect her. However, she didn't fall to her death or hit a rock. Instead, she fell down the cliff. The great protector frowned. "If she dies, we won't be able to get the box anymore." The 8th protector, who had been silent, suddenly took a step forward and pointed his ear at the cliff. "Listen. There's something down there," the 2nd protector recalled. "Someone just jumped down. I don't know if it's—" The 3rd protector was impatient. He interrupted him. "What do you mean by if? It's more important to save her. Quick. Get the rope." There happened to be a rope on the ground that had tied Dukan up. However, it wasn't long enough. The 8th protector went to the front and took the longest rope. He tied a dead knot and threw it down. "Is it here?" the 3rd protector asked. "I'm not sure." The great protector frowned. "The wind is too strong down there. The sound is scattered. It's hard to tell the direction." The third protector shouted at the bottomless abyss. Hey! Is the person down there still alive? Squeak! Gu Chongqing heard the sound coming from above his head. However, the wind around him had changed. It was no longer blowing from below, but from above. As long as he looked up, he would be unable to make a sound due to the strong wind. Little Nine, who was circling in the sky, suddenly screamed. He dived down and grabbed the end of the rope. Facing the strong wind, he flew towards Gu Jiao and Gu Chongqing. The strong wind broke his wings. He did not stop. He placed the rope in Gu Chongqing's hands. Gu Chongqing looked up at the sky and pulled on the rope. The third protector felt the strength of the rope and his eyes lit up. It's moving, it's moving. It wasn't the kind of movement that was caused by the wind. It was being pulled. Someone had grabbed it. The great protector quickly ordered, "Quick! Pull him up!" The second protector and the third protector worked together. The fourth protector also came to help. The three experts pulled the rope with all their strength. Gu Chongqing felt a strong pulling force. His right hand pulled on the rope and his left hand grabbed the exhausted Little Nine. With a whoosh, they were halfway up the mountain. The two people safely came up. Gu Chongqing was lying on the ground. Gu Jiao was lying on his back. The second protector was the first to rush over. He checked Gu Jiao's breathing. Seeing that Gu Jiao was still alive, he let out a long sigh of relief. After all, he was the one who had pushed her down the cliff. If something really happened, he would be responsible. As for the other person, he didn't care if he lived or died. And Guogong put his elbow on the ground and slowly moved over. "Chongqing, how are you? How is Jiao Jiao?" Gu Chongqing took a breath and said, "Jiao Jiao is fine. She's asleep." And Guogong touched Gu Jiao's face and hands. Her face was cold, but her hands were warm. "Jiao Jiao is fine. She's fine." And Guogong's heart dropped. His eyes were slightly red because of Gu Jiao's survival. Suddenly, his eyes fell onto Gu Chongqing's hands. His heart suddenly trembled. "Chongqing, I'm fine, don't worry." Gu Chongqing moved his hands away and stood up with Gu Jiao on his back. Gu Jiao was sleeping very peacefully on his back. This knowledge made him feel very happy. It meant that in her heart, she could completely trust him. He thought of what she had said to him at the bottom of the cliff and his eyes slightly trembled. He didn't know that she was already pregnant. But even though she was pregnant, she still risked her life to protect the people by her side. He tilted his head slightly and said softly to her sleeping body, "Brother will take you down the mountain." He turned his head and said to Nguagong, "Guogong, please go behind the rock first." "Okay." And Guogong nodded and sat behind the rock with Gu Chongqing's help. Then, Gu Chongqing gently put Gu Jiao down and let her rest on Nguagong's shoulder. This matter had arisen because of the second elder. The second elder stepped forward and said to Gu Chongqing, "Brat, you can't leave. Put her down and I can let you suffer less." Gu Chongqing walked out from behind the rock and pulled out the long sword at his waist. He looked coldly at the people and said, "No one can take my sister away. Don't waste words. Take this." The second elder raised his sword and attacked Gu Chongqing. The sword hut was famous for their swordsmanship. This brat dared to use a sword in front of him. This was showing off in front of an expert. The weapons clashed. Every move was filled with killing intent. Neither side gave the other a way out. Gu Chongqing was a junior and from a lower country. The protectors of the sword hut did not think much of him. Letting the second protector deal with him was already giving him face. The others naturally would not interfere. However, as they watched the battle from the side, their expressions became strange. The third protector said, "It's been 20 moves. Why hasn't the second elder taken him down yet?" The fourth protector said, "This brat can fight too well." The fifth protector said, "There's nothing special about his moves. It's just that there's a ruthlessness. He's a master who uses his willpower to stimulate his potential." The eighth protector said, "This person is very suitable to enter the sword hut. If he receives our guidance, in time, he may become another master in our sect." The third elder said, "Does the eighth elder mean not to kill him? To recruit him?" Just as he finished speaking, Gu Chongqing purposely revealed a flaw and led the second elder to attack. In the end, he used his hand to clamp down on the second elder's sword. Then, he stabbed the second elder's abdomen. The second elder hit Gu Chongqing's shoulder with his palm and used the force to break free from Gu Chongqing's grip. At the same time, his body was separated from Gu Chongqing's long sword. He retreated a few steps. His long sword touched the ground and supported his body that was about to fall. Second protector. The expressions of the people changed. Obviously, they did not expect that the sword hut protector would lose to a young brat. "I'll fight you." The eighth protector flew up. The first protector said, "Sixth elder, fifth elder, the two of you attack together. At this time, there's no need to talk about righteousness. Quickly kill him and get down to business." The three of them surrounded Gu Chongqing. The three of them were as powerful as an Hun. When they attacked together, Gu Chongqing was suppressed. His hands were injured at the bottom of the cliff and he carried Gu Jiao on his back for a long time. His physical strength and inner strength were severely depleted. If he were to fight with the three in Han, he would have no chance of winning. His back was cut by the fifth protector. His brocade clothes were torn and fresh blood splattered out. Gu Jiao, who was sleeping soundly, frowned. Gu Chongqing told himself that he could not fall. He still had to bring his sister home. "Are you still not going to surrender? You're really stubborn. Fifth elder, don't talk nonsense with him. Kill him. Eighth elder, cut off his escape route." Gu Chongqing was attacked from the front and back. The sixth protector took the opportunity to jump up and stab the sword in his hand towards his back. Poochie, the sharp sword pierced through his chest from his back. The sixth protector lowered his head in disbelief and looked at the tip of the spear that pierced through his chest. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Sixth younger brother. Sixth protector. The fifth protector and the eighth protector shouted in unison. Under the moonlight, Gu Jiao, who had woken up unknowingly, was standing behind the sixth protector with a red tasseled spear in her hand. This scene happened too quickly. Even the senior protector and the others who were watching did not react in time. They all thought that the sixth protector's sword would definitely pierce through Gu Chongqing. Who would have thought that the sixth protector's back would be pierced by someone else? Gu Jiao pulled out the red tasseled spear and fresh blood splattered onto her cold little face. The strong wind from the bottom of the cliff blew up and her red battle robe fluttered. The battle robe was like fire, as if it had drunk the enemy's blood. On the ground where the sand and stones were flying, a safety amulet that was still warm was lying alone. Gu Jiao stepped on it and looked at everyone present with a murderous gaze. Everyone was shocked by her murderous aura. It was different from her aura when she came. Although she was also killing people, she now had a domineering aura that could destroy heaven and earth. It was as if she was an Asura who had returned from purgatory. She wanted to kill the entire hidden sword manor and leave nothing behind. Gu Chongqing took the opportunity to wave his sword and force the fifth and eighth protectors back. He knelt on one knee and used his sword to support his body. He turned around and looked at Gu Jiao, who had a cold gaze. His gaze swept past the safety amulet under her foot and landed on her lower abdomen that was protected by her armor. He clenched his fists bit by bit. The third protector frowned and said, "What's wrong with her? Why does she feel weird?" The senior protector's face was solemn. "Don't you think that her current state is similar to an Hun and the others when they lose control?" The third protector's face changed. Could she have been poisoned by the purple grass poison? The senior protector said coldly, "Capture her." The fifth protector was the first to rush over. A person who was poisoned by the purple grass poison would not be killed so easily. As such, they did not have to show any mercy. They just had to attack as hard as they could. She only had herself to blame for injuring and crippling her. Something shocking happened. Gu Jiao broke the fifth protector's sword with one strike. She then did a somersault in the air and kicked the fifth protector's head, causing him to kneel on the ground. Fifth protector. Everyone's faces changed. What kind of speed was this? What kind of terrifying strength was this? The eighth protector launched a sneak attack at Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao did not even turn her head. Instead, she turned around and stabbed the eighth protector's shoulder with her spear. Then, Gu Jiao used the red-tasseled spear to jump backwards. The tip of her foot hooked the fifth protector's chin and ruthlessly kicked him off the cliff. The senior protector was furious. Attacked together. The rest of the people, including the injured second protector, all rushed towards Gu Jiao. Gu Jiao stood in front of Gu Chongqing and said word by word, "You, get out of my way." Gu Chongqing's arm trembled as he gripped his sword tightly. Jiao Jiao. Gu Jiao grabbed the injured Gu Chongqing and stepped on the stone wall. She threw him towards Duke and who was behind the rock. The battle was very fierce. The wind and sand all over the sky were swept up. Shadows of swords flashed in the dark night. Gu Jiao was like a killing machine without a soul. One by one, the protectors fell under her red-tasseled spear. Shenyuan 8 styles. 9th style. The senior protector looked at the Shenyuan spear style that Gu Jiao used. His eyes trembled fiercely. "You are..." Pucci. Gu Jiao's red-tasseled spear pierced through his internal organs. The senior protector fell to the ground with his eyes wide open. Even in death, he did not shout out that name. Of the 8 protectors, only the second protector who had been seriously injured by Gu Chongqing was left. Because of his serious injuries, he could not charge at the front. Instead, he lived until the end. He no longer had the strength to fight. He looked at the corpses of his fellow disciples. The shock and grief in his heart could not be any greater. For a moment, he did not know who to care for. Third protector. Third protector. Eighth protector. Wake up. Fourth. Fifth. Senior protector. Senior protector. Senior protector. His voice was choked with sobs and fear. Gu Jiao dragged the red-tasseled spear that was weeping blood in front of him. Her entire body was soaked in the blood of the sword hut. Every part of her body that was unharmed was filled with blood. It caused the ruthlessness in her body to surge endlessly. Gu Chongqing held his chest and called out to her, "Jiao Jiao, don't kill them." Gu Jiao could not hear him. She raised the red-tasseled spear in her hand with a murderous look. In the blink of an eye, a white-robed elder descended from the sky. With a biting cold murderous look, he slapped towards Gu Jiao. Gu Chongqing flew over and took the hit for Gu Jiao. He fell heavily to the ground and spat out blood. This person's power was too strong. It was far above an Hun's. The second protector seemed to have seen his last life-saving straw before he drowned. He cried out hoarsely, "White Tiger Venerable!" The 4 venerables of the sword hut, Green Dragon, Vermilion Bird, White Tiger, and Black Tortoise. Gu Jiao suddenly turned around and looked coldly at the person who had come. Gu Chongqing looked at Gu Jiao. She could not fight anymore. She was too exhausted. If she continued to fight, she and the baby in her womb would not be safe. The White Tiger Venerable stood beside the second protector. He glanced at him and said coldly, "You can't even deal with a girl. What use are you?" The second protector lowered his head. The White Tiger Venerable said indifferently, "Girl, I don't want to kill you. As long as you follow me obediently, I can let them go." Gu Jiao said coldly, "Die." The White Tiger Venerable snorted in disdain, "You refuse a toast only to drink a forfeit." He knew Gu Jiao's power. He admitted that she was strong. But after all, she had just gone through a battle. She had used up a lot of her energy. The more she lost control, the more she used up. She did not have much energy left. He did not need to use his sword. She would faint if he used 2 moves on her. This was the advantage of having more people on his side. The White Tiger Venerable used his advantage in Qinggong to make Gu Jiao use up her last bit of energy. But at this moment, a loud bang came from the sky. The terrifying power brushed past his shoulder, and a burning pain spread through his entire arm. He landed beside a big tree not far away and looked at his injured shoulder. It was not a cut wound, but an open wound. It looked bloody and horrifying. "Tisk, it's just a scratch. What a pity." Accompanied by a cynical sigh, Shangguan Qing swaggered over with a gun on his shoulder. He was obviously alone, but the aura he exuded was like a magnificent army. This was probably inherited from his father. "Can you make way?" Behind him, Xiao Hang, who was completely blocked, said indifferently. "Oh." Shangguan Qing decisively made way for his stinky younger brother. Xiao Hang glanced around and quickly walked toward Gu Jiao. Shangguan Qing looked at Gu Jiao, who was overflowing with murderous intent. He could no longer distinguish between friend and foe. He said loudly to his stinky younger brother, "Hey! Danger!" Xiao Hang rushed to Gu Jiao's side and held Gu Jiao's hand that was holding the red-tasseled spear. "Jiao Jiao!" Gu Jiao's hand was trembling. The white-clothed elder looked at the two with a dangerous gaze. Shangguan Qing raised his gun and pointed it at him. "Don't move, otherwise, I'll shoot you." Xiao Heng raised his hand and touched her face. "Jiao Jiao, it's me." Heng." Shangguan Qing gritted his teeth and said, "Come here first. She doesn't recognize anyone right now. She will hurt you." Xiao Hang looked deeply at Gu Jiao and pulled a completely out of control Gu Jiao into his embrace. Shangguan Qing's expression changed. "You're crazy." Gu Jiao raised the red-tasseled spear in her hand. The tip of the spear flashed coldly under the moonlight, reflecting her bloodthirsty eyes. Shangguan Qing shouted, "Younger brother." The spear fell and stabbed the second law protector behind Xiao Hang, who was trying to sneak attack him. Gu Jiao's last bit of strength was used up. She blacked out and collapsed, and the red-tasseled spear fell heavily on the ground. Xiao Hang hugged her waist. "Jiao Jiao Jiao Jiao." Shangguan Qing glanced at the unconscious Gu Jiao, the seriously injured Gu Chongqing, and the drugged Du Ken. He secretly felt that things were not good. The two of them had to take 3 people away. The situation was not optimistic. Misfortune never came alone. The other 3 venerables also came to the side door. They heard the sound of the gun and rushed over. The 4 of them were all masters of Qinggong. With the cover of the night, a gun could not kill them at all. Shangguan Qing held the gun, his heart like dead ashes. "It's over, it's completely over now. We're all going to die here. I'll deal with that gun." The White Tiger Venerable said. Xian Wu, who was the youngest Venerable, said, "Leave that girl to me." The 2 of them attacked at the same time. The white-robed Venerable used his lightness skill and the terrain to restrain Shangguan Qing's gun. The Black Tortoise Venerable tapped his toes and flew up, reaching out his demonic claws to grab Xiao Heng's shoulder, intending to pull him and Gu Jiao away and throw them off the cliff. At the moment of imminent peril, an ice-cold sword chi broke through with an unstoppable force. The murderous aura filled the entire mountain. The Black Tortoise Venerable's eyebrows jumped. Before he could react, his sleeve was cut off by the sword chi. Almost at the same time, a tall and sturdy figure fell from the sky and kicked him in the chest. He was forced to retreat several steps. The owner of the figure held a peacock feather sword and blocked in front of Xiao Hang and Gu Jiao. The Venerables looked at him. The Black Tortoise Venerable raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He frowned and asked, "You are?" His ice-cold thin lips slightly opened. "Long E." Digression. Baby Long E is here. Do I have a monthly ticket? The latest chapter of this book is not finished yet. For more wonderful content, please scan the QR code below to download the app. Novels are updated even faster. Millions of novels are free to read. Novels with connotations that can't be found on the internet are all here. https://www.zhhbqg.com/89642_826/1046027334. HTML Genius remembered this site's address in a second. www.zhhbqg.com Bikuj mobile reading website, zhhbqg.com. You're tuning in to the Narrate and Escape YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.